chemistry student at Juja town on Tuesday morning. And the government has mobilized the appropriate security mechanisms in a bid to address skirmishes that have led to the loss of lives and property along the Meru, Isiolo and Samburu boundaries in the recent past. Internal Security Secretary Wilson Njenga says the government plans to recruit more national police reservists from both Isiolo and Meru counties who will closely work with the Anti-Stock Theft Unit, General Service Unit and regular police officers to ensure that the emerging security concerns in the area are addressed amicably. Njenga says the contingent of security personnel will be engaged in search of stolen animals and ensure the safety of lives and property for the sake of peace and development in the region. And the East African Community heads of states have directed all armed groups in the Democratic Republic of Congo to participate unconditionally in the political process to resolve their grievances. The proposed mechanism is aimed at facilitating the implementation of the country's political and military and security enforcement tracks. The proposal was delivered by 5 heads of state: Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta, Yoweri Museveni of Uganda, Paul Kagame of Rwanda, Evariste Ndayishimiye of Burundi, and their DRC counterpart Felix Tshisekedi at the heads of state conclave on the Democratic Republic of Congo convened in Nairobi, Kenya. In a statement, the leaders were categorical that all foreign armed groups in the DRC must disarm and return unconditionally and immediately to their respective countries of origin. This is News. I'm Dennis Assetto. Good morning.
SpiceFM, Nyeri.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
I like listening to you guys. You're the default radio station in my car in the morning. Even the children listen to you guys.
I agree Parliament has failed this country. And I will say it again. We have not done what we should have done.
We know in this country, the Kenya prison sector is one of the most underfunded sector.
The way it is being done and the way we're calling it Huduma Namba the Msema Kweli is because all records will be there. You know, there are people who are now billionaires with no history as to how they got all these assets.
Yes. Anything that the president does that is not in accord with the constitution is an illegal act. You know, he shouldn't be doing it and he shouldn't be sitting here and trying to sort of guise it up.
I totally believe live transmission of results and allowing Kenyans to be able to view all these results. I believe that it will be impossible to steal elections.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Friday morning and the heavens have opened up. Rain everywhere you look. That means the roads are going to be just a tad slippery and we should be careful. Traffic is building up in certain parts of the city, a little bit here and there. Mombasa Road. The Southern Bypass looks pretty good today. We're not seeing too much on the Thika Superhighway. It's likely to pick up. It being Friday, folks moving back and forth. On Uhuru Highway, getting into the city, out into Westlands, that's starting to build up as well. Apart from that, folks are just waking up to a wet morning. Let's have a look at what it looks like in about half an hour. But it looks like we're starting Friday off just right. Talk to us, SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only
It's
way
Friday.
to start your day.
Imagine, let's just start on that. No, it's Friday. It's a 22nd day of that month of 2022. How are you doing? Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. Ndu,
Yes,
it's Friday.
it is.
Or does it feel like a Tuesday to you?
It's raining.
Hey,
The heavens have decided to do the business this morning.
like totally, completely,
Yes.
completely.
I love it.
Unfortunately, that brings our attention back to Kenya.
It does.
Ooh.
There's a whole mess, guys.
Yeah. So the expressway has now become like a gutter, right? So it's collecting rainwater, harvesting rainwater, and then
Depositing it.
it on the road below.
It's a dam. Dam.
So, people are complaining there's drought. Okay. Looking for something else to complain about?
Oh, there was a
Mombasa
heat,
Road
there was a heat wave.
is delightfully full of lakes.
Why?
It's Mombasa Lake. Actually, it's what
Mombasa
it looks like.
continuous lakes.
Unfortunately, a lot of people are complaining about a lot of things. Before we even get to the whole complaint about walkways and access to
Footbridges,
blah blah blah. We saw 3 accidents happen on Mombasa Road yesterday in the span of 45 minutes in a certain stretch, and that's because of the unevenness of the road. So people are kind of losing control. You get onto a smooth part, it goes into an uneven part, and then you try to come back, and lo and behold, you find yourself in a trench, in another car, or in part of the expressway wall. So folks are complaining about this, that there are many things that were ignored, unfortunately. And now, to that mix, we have added rain.
It's crazy. It's crazy. How are you doing though?
I'm all right.
You well?
Yes.
City? How about you?
I'm very well. Yes.
Mvua imeanza.
Nyingi,
Yeah.
we will soon be talking about floods.
Why? Yeah.
Before Punde becomes Punde.
Punde won't even have become Punde, but we'll be talking about floods. Yes. So we'll be left with this debate of asking ourselves, which is worse, a drought or floods?
Or floods.
Yeah,
Which is easier to contain, which is easier to manage?
Bwana. Mungu atusaidie. Welcome to the conversation, everybody. Today, being Friday, we will reflect various things that are happening in the country and the world. So, number one, we know yesterday the council met. This is the council of...
I was going to hear eerie music.
Where? The 12 men and women met and they discussed who should be Raila's running mate, and they said, we'll help you choose. Your previous choices have...
You need a little bit of help, it would appear.
previous choices for running mate, and the choices has been right there among the 12. Your previous, the way you've picked your previous running mates, we will now form a team that will advise you on how to choose your running mate, because if history is anything to go by, no, this one doesn't work. So we'll discuss that. What is it that they should be looking out for, or they would be looking out for, this team that will be selected to
select,
identify Raila's suitable running mates? We've seen in the nominations they're using a lot of scientific polling to determine the candidates, especially Jubilee. Jubilee is just using polling and negotiations and looking at candidate strengths. So we'll have somebody who's a researcher and statistician, Haron Kiriba, with us in the studio at 7 to discuss this, to look at what are the choices that Raila will have, and also similarly what are the choices that Ruto would have. At 8 o'clock, Kenya Pipeline Company, the pipeline.
The pipeline.
Yeah, the one that transports fuel products from the port of Mombasa to the hinterland. Is also transporting data from the major fiber undersea cables in Mombasa into the hinterland. They've launched fiber optic cable service. How do you understand? Is it inside the pipeline? Is it alongside the pipeline?
It's somewhere else. Security company.
So, the GM
Fiber
instead
optic.
of fiber optic Kenya pipeline.
I thought we had fiber optic.
Who?
Who's
Us.
we?
Some years ago,
Who's we?
Who's we?
Kenya, there was a time we were told, amidst a lot of fanfare, some cable landed in Mombasa.
Not one, not two, but three. Yep.
Yes. So that they are also landing another one.
No. They're taking that data from Mombasa, just like they do with petroleum products.
Or they are plugging in to that system.
Yes.
Okay. So meaning they didn't have it before.
So we've got Seacom, which is a major fiber optic cable under the sea, lands in Mombasa. We've got another one called Teams.
Yes.
In Mombasa.
Yes.
Owned by East African countries.
Yes.
And another third one called Easy. I think Easy is the one actually owned by those countries, also in Mombasa.
Yes.
Right? So 3 major fiber optic.
So then they're plugging into that system.
Yes. Now from there, last mile connectivity.
Last mile. Well, I thought we had connectivity already in Kenya.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we'll ask the person.
Yes.
Indio.
So the Kenya Pipeline, Zilpa Michelle Abongo is the GM Strategy and Compliance at Kenya Pipeline. She'll be here to tell us this fiber optic thing. Tuachie mbili.
Hizo fiber.
Apate fiber yake. And now weekend.
Yes. At 9, we'll still be talking about tech. So the other day, the boss of Google globally announced that Google is doing something big. They're opening Africa's first product development center in Nairobi. They'll be hiring more than 100 engineers, blah, 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 for this center. So the boss of Google in
human
East Africa,
human resource development and employment.
Yes, big one.
So they are not going to consider people who want to be engineers. They must be engineers first.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
Yes, carry on.
Yeah. They're not going to hire.
You're thinking about a 7th degree.
So the boss of Google in East Africa, Agnes Gadaya, will be speaking to us at 9 o'clock.
She's coming to the studio.
Yeah, she is not coming to the studio. Imagine.
The last time we spoke to her, she said she was coming to the studio.
We'll ask her. Don't worry. She will be here. Don't worry.
We'll tell her which next time were you talking about. Okay. Anyway, quickly, COVID.
Yeah. Okay. We're looking at world numbers. 507,804,427. If we look really quickly about how Kenya is working on vaccinations, which is still a thing, 17,837,914 vaccines have been administered across the country. 16,313,182 are doses administered to the adult population above 18, and 1.2 million are doses administered to those between 15 to 17 years old, and 293,459 are booster doses. Right? So are they available? Yes, they are. 27 million are available. That's rather what has been received by the country, and of those, about 10 million are still, waiting to be taken up. The call still remains from the Ministry of Health. Please come and get vaccinated. A U.S. judge makes history. A federal judge in Florida has struck down the Biden administration's mask mandate for airplanes and other forms of public transit, calling it unlawful. U.S. District Judge Catherine Kimball Mizell said the National Public Health Agency has exceeded its legal powers in issuing the mandate. Of course, somebody took the administration to court and said, you cannot do this. The U.S. Transit Authority said it could now no longer enforce mask wearing. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, just last week extended the mask mandate to the 3rd of May. Judge Mizell, who is based in Florida, but federal judges can issue rulings that block nationwide government policies. Her order Monday effectively removes the masking requirement in all airports, trains, taxis, and transit hubs. Some social media users reported that the order was announced on aircraft mid-flight, prompting passengers and travelers to applaud and remove their masks. Monday, the president of the Association of Flight Attendants appealed for calm and consistency in airports and on planes to avoid confusion and chaos. White House Press Secretary Jane Psaki called the decision disappointing and noted that the CDC still recommends travelers cover their mouths and noses. But legally, you cannot enforce this in the United States any longer.
Why? 19 after 6, live streaming the show on SpiceFM KE, YouTube and Facebook. If you're online, say hello to us. We'll appreciate and say hello back at you. Have a good Friday morning.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Brought to you by Colgate.
Spice FM.
It's getting hot in here.
Oh, everybody steals. It's better a thief who brings something small back. And I say to myself, there's no better thief. A thief is a thief, period.
All those bribes, how much they're getting per year, how much inconvenience they're causing. As much as you call it a small case, it's worth it to be convicted.
The truth is, we are a tribal nation. Because if we were not tribal, and I want to go back to this, you cannot continue walking around with a mug which is clean outside and it's rotten inside.
We have become a fuliza country. We have mortgaged our country because of debt.
You've got one chef working and the assistant chef wakati anatakana koroge unga nini hayuko.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
The rains are coming down in Nairobi. We'll see highs of 22 and lows of 15 through today. Mostly cloudy at 16 in Nakuru, highs of 23 and lows of 16. At 16, rain showers in Nyeri as well, highs of 23 and lows of 14. And it's cloudy at 15 in Eldoret, highs of 21 and lows of 14. Partly cloudy conditions in Mombasa at 25. We'll see highs of 30 and lows of 24, while it's cloudy in Malindi at 27. We'll see highs of 31. And lows of 25 today. It's raining in Kisumu at 19, highs of 25 and lows of 18, while mostly cloudy in Kakamega at 16. We'll see highs of 25. Kampala mostly clear this morning at 18. We'll see highs of 24. At 24 is what it is in Dar es Salaam. It's partly cloudy, highs of 30 and lows of 24. Clear conditions in Johannesburg at 13. Highs of 21 and lows of 11, and it's mostly clear at 26 in Lagos. We'll see highs of 32. Clear at 24 in Kinshasa, highs of 32 and lows of 23. Looking out into Beijing, afternoon Friday, it's 18 and sunny. Highs of 23 and lows of 11. Paris is clear at 10, highs of 20, and we'll see highs of 16 in a clear London at 9. It's still Thursday night in New York. It's cloudy, however, at 12. Coming into Friday, we'll see highs of 15 and lows of 10.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
Okay, 22 minutes after 6 o'clock.
B. Bish says, good morning, Spice. We should baptize the expressway dams. Please find out how MCR fared in the nomination race. Did he win? MCR Kimanzi? Where are you? Talk to us, man. What happened? David Neto says, good morning. Meru is listening. Mumias is where Faristo Muganda is this morning. And Jar Soldier says, good morning. Willie is tuned in from Trans Nzoia County this morning, and Simon Murakana is tuned in from Buyayi Marachi Butula this morning. White Rhino Jerry Munyi says they never give the names of the advisory team, plus no time frame. Azimio going nowhere, you say? Okay, let's wait and see. Steve, He said they never gave the names of the advisory team. We'll do that in a minute. So you can get to know who those are.
Who even knows them?
Who knows them?
Do they even know?
The Brotherhood.
Uh-huh.
Steve Fury says, good morning. Davey is awake this morning. Ibrahim Bryan says he's tuned in from Nairobi this morning. And Angela Nyangs is tuned in and Katani is locked. Have a good Friday. Friday, yay. Have a good Friday, everybody. And that's Pauline. Bishogoro Omukaya says, good morning. Robert Bogo tuned in. Dan Boro is tuned in from Kitengela. And Johnston says, good morning. Gikonyo James says, hello, good morning. Okay, MC Akimansi, there you are. And you've said you tune in from Nyeri, Mombasa. We want to know what happened. Please tell us.
First of all, do you want to be MCA of Mombasa County or of Kitui County or where?
Nyeri is where he is right now.
Okay.
Tell us. Okay?
Ama yeye ni MCA or watu.
Quite
The
a number-
People's MCA.
The People's MCA. Indeed. Quite a number of you online this morning. Asante for joining us. Karibu.
Good morning, City.
Okay, it's going to be a good one.
No.
We're still in the country of Paure Gnagadasimbe.
That individual who has many G's to the name, but the G's are silent. Right.
She's silent.
The man, this is according to the proverb, but I am going to paraphrase it. The person who never experienced evil does not know the worth of what is good.
A person who never experienced evil does not know the worth of what's good. You've got to have something to compare.
Well, it is how it is. Well, phrases that can explain this are in the myriads. Okay? Because for you to understand a contradiction, there needs to exist two opposites.
Indeed. Never miss the sun when it starts to snow. Vitu kama hizo.
And you're here. And I can see clearly now the rain is. This one hasn't gone, it has come. So,
The
all
man
those
who
things.
does what? The person who?
Never experienced evil. Evil. Does not know the worth of what is good. Not weevils, Eric. Evil. Evil weevil.
A person who never experienced weevils.
Never went to high school.
No, never went to a boarding school in Kenya.
Will never appreciate.
Nutritious vermin.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but you found them in your food. After a while, you stopped removing them. You just ate.
Ew. What are those?
Figure, has anybody died? No. Has anybody suffered? Okay.
Githeri iko na nyama.
Yes.
It's disgusting.
Ingaja in small pieces, but iko.
Kona mincemeat.
Kona mincemeat. Tena iko na vitamin ya protein.
Let's take a look at the newspaper headlines. www.standardmedia.co.ke. Are you a member of our online community? Please, if you're not, just go to www.standardmedia.co.ke, register, subscribe, and become a member. Premium content online. They're promoting today Grace to Grass, Pain, Trauma of Losing an Election. Plunge into political oblivion, sinks politicals into despair. This is now, of course, profiling those who were big shots in this current parliament or in the county assemblies or in the county executives who have lost at nomination stage. This is the fall from grace
To grass.
to grass. Mardi Gras. What's in the papers?
Quite a lot. So, of course, we heard the horrible news of Muthee, Damaris Muthee, who was found in her home in Iten Tuesday. Autopsy has shown that she was strangled. Kenyan-born Bahrain athlete Damaris Muthee, whose decomposing body was found in a house in Iten on Tuesday, was strangled, an autopsy has shown. Pathologists from the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital conducted the examination yesterday at the Iten Referral Hospital. KO North DCIO Andolo Munga told the media that stomach content from the deceased had been sampled, but further examination and to establish if there was poisoning. At the house, the deceased was found on the bed, dead. She was covered with a blanket and a pillow was on her face. It was unfortunate we lost an upcoming athlete in such a manner. Investigations are ongoing. The athlete's family and her in-laws were present during the autopsy. Sebastian Mutua, her father, said Damaris was married to Felix Ngila, who works in Qatar. He dismissed claims that his daughter might have been in a relationship with the suspect. Eskander Haile Mariam, who is an Ethiopian of Ethiopian origin. When my daughter was from her recent race in Angola, she passed by Qatar to greet her husband, who even paid for her ticket. The husband was shocked to learn of this incident. Mutua said his sixth-born daughter was polite and humble and always listened to him. There had been information making rounds about my daughter's relationship. I don't believe such information. She was married, and that is the only thing we know. He asked the government of Kenya and Bahrain to help with investigations if we can lose young children in such a manner. What then remains of us? I urge young girls to be cautious because some people are evil. The family said that they will plan the athlete send-off. Josephat Ndeti Ngila, father-in-law to the athlete, who is also a retired athlete, said his son married Damaris when she was 17. They had a 6-year-old son. I was training at Kaptagat before my retirement, and when my daughter-in-law began training in Kapsabet and Iten, I was in total support. She was home after the Angola race and was called by her coach to resume her training. So, I mean, this is really sad. I think we're now looking at, in the last 11 months, this is the third athlete. Now, yes, this is the third athlete that has died, fourth athlete now, who has died under these strange circumstances. And it's interesting because the last 3 who have died, although investigations are going on, we do not know who killed them. And we had heard from initial reports from police that there was some foul play in their deaths. Nobody has been brought to book. Nobody has been arrested beyond question or charged for this. And it's really sad that so many bright lights are being dimmed in this manner.
You know, has the government begun conversations with Ethiopian government on how to deal with the boyfriend?
You know, this is a tricky subject because there's boyfriend, alleged,
husband.
mentioned, stated, there's husband, son. But anyway, having said that, continue what you are saying. Has the Kenyan government?
You see, you need to take a statement and investigate everybody here,
Yes, you
right?
do. Yes, you do.
Mr. Haile Mariam is reportedly back in Ethiopia. Okay? Mr. Haile Mariam, whether it is being set up or not, is said to have texted a friend or a neighbor and alerted them that, you know what, this has happened. Go and check. And that's when they found the decomposing body of this girl. So, what do we know from Haile Mariam? Is Haile Mariam actually, can we establish that Haile Mariam is indeed in Ethiopia, first of all? Because maybe he's not.
If he wasn't, and maybe he's here.
Maybe he's not in Ethiopia. Maybe he's also been killed.
That is a likelihood. His whereabouts is a subject of just conjecture. We don't really know.
We don't know.
Apart from the fact that this unfortunate young lady is dead, and we hear news of the possibility of what it is that caused her death, we don't really know much more, do we?
No.
We don't. We don't.
But this is just what you've said just now. It's the same narrative about the last 3. We really don't know what happened. There was strangulation, there was foul play, there was
Reports
head trauma.
about altercation.
An altercation between the relationship. That's all we ever heard. And then those cases have somehow died. Why? Why?
Tough one here. The DCI needs to do a lot of investigations here.
If you ask me, they have a fairly clear idea what went on.
They can put together the pieces.
Yes, my faith in the ability of the DCI to understand what's going on
is very strong.
They know. They know their craft. They know what to do. They know how to do it. it's after the facts that I've mentioned that other things tend to come in to complicate issues. But left to do their job as they should, man, it's sometimes a matter of hours, days, they've concluded it, they've even nabbed the culprits. Yes.
28 minutes to 7. Let's take this quick break and take a look at the traffic. Rainy Nairobi morning. What's happening in other parts of the country as well? Remember, Showmax, 760 shilling per month. It's a base rate. It's called the base rate, rack rate. Subscribe. So with 760, that's it. From 760 shillings, you can actually get access to good content on Showmax, including Crime and Justice, Season 2 and Season 1 as well. Let's take that quick break. We'll tell you more about Showmax throughout the show.
Hey, it's getting hot in here. The media has greatly contributed to the moral rot that we experience in this country.
I remember a senior politician telling me, point blank, nobody steals in the field, it's stolen in the granary. So my friend, if you're going to win an election, jipange kwa granary.
I think we are suffering from Stockholm Syndrome. Our violator and abuser is also our redeemer in our mind. The whole political
Taking a look at what it looks like now, a few minutes after 6:30, and building up in many parts of the city. It's going to slow down considerably because the roads are wet and slippery, so everybody's slowing down. We're looking at Jogo Road going out into the city, Huru Highway, all the way from the Nyeri Stadium roundabout out into the CBD, then through into Westlands. That has slowed down already. Likely to see quite some traffic there this morning. Let's take a look at Mombasa Road. And not too bad for now, but that build-up has already started right around the ICD, and it's going to take us through to General Motors. Folks are using the ICD route, however, and then out towards the Southern Bypass going the back way. There's an option for you. The Eastern Bypass clogging up already going out. And we're seeing Outer Ring also building up some. It's going to build up on Langata Road as well. Likely going to be a really busy morning. If you're out now, you should be all right. If you're not, you might want to plan for it. We'll take a look outside Nairobi as well and see what Friday pans out to be. Help us out here, folks. Let's know what you see. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Spice FM, Malindi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
25 minutes to 7. You know, wealth acquisition is not only about waking up early, sleeping late, working very hard. It also depends on the company you keep and the places you work. Okay? Those also play a big role. Take, for instance, the case of Evans Wafula Kundu. Evans Wafula Kundu worked for this organization where he was earning 26,000 shillings a month. But he has some net assets of about 450 million shillings. Okay? Wealth creation is not about waking up early, how much you earn per month. No. It also depends on where you work and who you associate with. Evans worked for the National Youth Service. He was a supervisor in charge of Mechanical and Transport Department at the National Youth Service. Okay? At the height of the NYS scandal, it's alleged that more than 9 billion shillings was lost. Kundu allegedly played a key role in signing payment vouchers to companies that traded with and supplied goods to the state institution. He reportedly acquired wealth while working for NYS. And yesterday, Justice Esther Maina said that Kundu's properties, which are spread across Trans Nzoia, Nakuru, Nairobi, were bought using money that had been stolen from NYS through collusion with rogue traders and companies which were paid millions of shillings for supplying nothing. So you see, it depends on where you work and who you know. The judge said he could not not have acquired massive wealth and assets legitimately given his income at the time. I'm satisfied that the properties are proceeds of crime, hence liable to be forfeited to the government. What are these properties? Vitu ndogo ndogo here and there. For example, he had a small SQ in Runda worth 90 million shillings. A small 30 by 100 plot in Kasarani worth 16 million shillings. A small, property in Nakuru East, that's just worth 25 million shillings. A 4-story mud house in Joro, and a 40-acre piece of land in Rocky, Kitale, worth in Trans Nzoia County. So you see, those are small properties here and there.
I observed something. From what we've seen, the case we read yesterday and today, there's a certain pre-qualification capacity you must have.
Right.
You must be earning less than 30,000 shillings a month.
Of course.
To be able to get into this.
To be able to do this thing. Otherwise, you can't get into it.
No, please.
The other guy was 20. The other is now 27, 26.
26, yeah. The other was 2,800, yes.
You see, a majority of Kenyans, right? A vast majority, looking at statistics from NHIF and NSSF, those who are salaried, are in that pay bracket of 25 to about 40,000 shillings.
Yes.
So it's the ordinary person who then will be able to acquire wealth. So wealth is not only for the wealthy.
So
wealth is for the ordinary. I mean, this is the average Joe.
It's the ordinary.
This is the hustler.
Yes.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
What then I want to ask is, if this is what he was able to do, and he was clearly a cog, what about the spokes?
What about the businesses that are alleged to have given him these kickbacks?
They're balling.
Yes.
That actually got him 450 million shillings.
No, it's small wala. Hey, if this guy got 450 million,
bear in mind, the 450 wasn't his alone. It never is.
No, the 450.
The 450 is what he got.
Is what is his.
Yes.
His slice is 450.
Yes. So that's my. The other ones, how much did they get?
The reason why I'm saying.
The other is like a kabillion.
Yeah. The reason why I'm saying it isn't entirely his. These things work because there are other enablers. It isn't two people. This thing requires something like a 10-man gang.
I hear you. So he has to give his pound of
there
flesh.
are people he also has to thank.
Keep seeing.
Even after this?
Yes, there are people he has to thank.
Well, not
with
anymore.
He gets it.
Now.
But then they say, we are the ones who pushed this paper from this point to this point. Okay?
Yeah.
We are the ones who printed, photocopied this one.
Well, unfortunately, now that the attention of the courts are on him, nobody's getting anything.
My thinking is, by the time he's ending up with the 350, he has paid off the 450. He has seen, he has done everything. So when he's going to Runda, for example, and asking, unauza kashamba? Na hii shamba yako bwana.
How much? Ulisema how much?
Ai. Hii mdosi mimi nauza hii 75. Chukua 90. Shamba yako. Mnauza shamba hapa kama maskini. This is Runda.
I have money.
You can't just sell Runda land at 60 million shillings.
What will he say of us?
Yeah, devaluing. Take 90. Wenda upatia watu huko nje. Goes to Kitale. Finds Kitale pieces of land, 100 acres, average. So he asks for a plot of 40 acres.
Only.
He just buys.
Incomparable to what the rest of people are having.
Yeah, nataka mahali ya kupanda mama kupanda mboga. 40 acres.
Mboga ndogo ndogo.
Mboga ndogo ndogo. When the
acres.
Asset Recovery Authority, remember Colonel Alice Mate, who sat here, the head of the Asset Recovery Authority, when they went to his account, they found pesa ndogo ndogo, coins here, pennies there, 197 million shillings only.
Only? Okay.
Yeah, it was just sitting in the accounts. The property, all these other property, is now valued at a cumulative 350 million. So you see, according to the agency, Kundu used the names of his wife and daughters to purchase properties and also colluded with his two brothers to register companies which were awarded NYS contracts and paid, wait for it, without supplying.
Air. This air is a good thing.
But in his defense, he said the source of money he used to buy the properties was farming.
Of course it is.
Farming what?
Farming.
See, farming.
What?
Farms.
What did he farm?
Produce.
According to him.
Farm produce.
The same produce that the guy who earns 460 delivered to the prison.
It's something that we have seen in this country. Anything to do with agriculture, the various forms of it.
It's true.
It
From
makes
cereals board to
you name
supply
it,
of food at prison.
to chicken, to eggs, to
Agriculture
charcoal.
drives Kenya's economy.
Yeah, that's where the money
Yes,
is.
this Kenyan is telling you that it's true.
He farmed.
Was paid.
Yeah, he has assets worth 450 million.
I love it.
Yes.
Ha! Ngwano.
You know-
So what did Justice Nani say?
The judge. It is my finding that his explanation for the source of the money with which he acquired these assets during the period in issue was not convincing. He did not rebut the evidence tendered by the ARA. The judge, however, sympathized with Kundu's wife and children, ruling that although they were merely beneficiaries of his ill-gotten wealth, all the properties registered in their names must also be forfeited. Sasa unachukua hata urithi ya watoto yangu.
It's interesting. I have a question. What do you think? I mean, just for fun, what do you think these fellas go tell their, whether it's the man going to tell his wife or his partner, whatever, or the woman who's going to tell her husband? The guy knows you earn some 20K. Then you come and tell him, we've just bought a shamba, 90 million. Do you think she wonders,
She
this
knows.
guy...
No, I don't think she wonders. I think she even
knows this guy is a thug.
No.
She
She knows
knows
this
that
guy is a farmer.
Do you know what she says when she goes to Chama?
My husband.
When
Do
she
you
go-
know
when she
we
goes to
just
church.
bought?
Hey.
We just
To-
bought.
to
God has
ma-
been good to us. We just bought land in Runda.
Tumebarikiwa.
We have bought land in Runda.
You guys come home next
Mungu
weekend. We do prayers.
Mungu comes in. Mungu ametuonekea. God has seen for us.
I'm hosting I'm hosting the prayers. And we have
I'll
a
serve you
housewarming.
vegetables from my shamba.
You know, we got a small. We even built a small house.
Yeah,
6 bedrooms.
You see, because because of where my dad works. He works in NYS. Now there it's it's like sort of military. So that's why we installed all these CCTVs. We have dug a 70,000 liter underground tank for water. These things. Because you never know.
But he works hard. He really works hard.
He just started earning a 20K. Now see what has happened.
Yes. If God isn't able, what is?
City, you're silly.
Okay, City. Well, tell us a story you're looking at.
A story I want to tell you. I have looked at the papers. I don't see it being anywhere, but something is happening in Mombasa that is not only shocking, but it is alarming. A group of young men come into town.
Right.
They're around 10 or so. I was sent 2 clips by 3 different people. And all they do is they attack people, they whip people, they rob people, and then they continue walking. They do this, it's like the first wave comes, knocks you to the ground, the next one comes, picks up, takes things from your pocket, whatever you're carrying, they carry, and then they move on.
They move.
Yes. And you can see the group
And this is daytime.
Broad daylight. By the time they're being filmed, by the time there's a clip, and you're being told, and I'm told they've been doing this for some time. Remember, there was a time in the Kisumu area, there were young men who were notorious not just for whipping people, they were killing people. They'd take coat wire hangers, the one made out of steel material, okay? Sharpen it, they accost you, they pierce you through the ribs with that. Yes. So they disable you completely. Then they rob you. Yes. Yes. I am actually telling you something that happens.
Hey.
So I'm asking myself this question. We are looking at the Kerio Valley. We are looking now at Marsabit. We are looking at West Pokot. We are looking at Laikipia. Lamu. Okay? And we even go down in history. The problem in Mombasa, if you recall, the Minister for Interior even went there at some point to talk to these young people, and somehow there was some quiet.
Yep.
It has resurrected again. What is it?
These gangs that just come out of nowhere.
Yes, but they walk in groups. So It's not as though they're hiding. You see a group of young people walking, and this is what they do. Sometimes they don't drop people, they just beat people and continue.
From what we know for sure is because of the radicalization of the coast, because of all those issues and investigations into links with terrorism and Al-Shabaab, intelligence services in Mombasa are always on high alert.
And I'm certain they even know what I'm talking about in greater detail.
By the time a gang is forming,
they know,
and planning and starting attack number 1, attack number 2,
they know.
Intelligence services know.
Not only do they know, they've reported the matter upwards.
Yes.
So that's why I asked the question, what is happening?
That's really worrisome.
You know, the places where you can say, okay, so here maybe you just have an NIS officers covering 2 counties, blah, 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 or DCI, just Mombasa.
Mombasa.
Mombasa is awash with sleuths.
You know, you see, my worry is because my memory goes back to 1972 and 1997. Okay? We've had a history where things seem to begin in an innocuous way. You don't seem to notice, but it's mayhem, a complete disrespect for the law. And then it suddenly mushrooms, and before you know it, it's a proper menace. And people can't walk freely anymore. People can't do the things that they do anymore. That's really my worry. It's happening in other parts of the country. The problem is I'm seeing growth. Yes. I'm not seeing this thing brought to an end. I am seeing growth. Now that is worrisome.
Yeah, really. It really is.
Yep, that's a big one.
And the problem with such things is the copycat mentality then takes place. If nothing seems to be done, other people who are like-minded. Remember the burning of schools? What do you think that was, if not copycat?
Yeah.
That was it all. It's done. The consequences come later and somebody wonders why or not they did what they did. But the problem is it's done and people have died.
Yep. That's true. Hey. Okay. Another story?
Yeah, so there's been this back and forth a few months ago. TSC is not promoting teachers with masters and PhDs because that is the assumption that once you go back to school and get some more, then you get a promotion. TSC says, well, okay, we can understand the rationale behind it, and they've ruled out the promotion of teachers based on higher qualifications attained while in service. Right? The TSC Human Resource Director, Julius Olayo, however, said promotion of teachers with master's and PhD degrees is a reserve, or rather a preserve, of the Salaries and Remuneration Commission. We have a number of you who went back to class and got master's and PhDs, but you are wondering why the Commission is not considering these papers when you come back. These promotions are controlled by the SRC, and TSC can do nothing about it. He said the TSC promotes teachers using the career progression guidelines. Principals attending the Kenya Secondary Schools Heads Association conference yesterday lamented that teachers had stagnated in one job group for many years, with those with higher qualifications such as masters and PhDs are not recognized. The chairperson, Kai Ndimuli, said the challenges teachers and principals face is that promotions are pegged on the schools they are teaching, which has created unfairness as opposed to the level of education that they have achieved. Let us not peg promotions on the category of school one is posted, as this has cost many deserving teachers promotions for years. Ndimuli said a majority of teachers in job group D3 have stagnated despite their long service. We need to ease off that stagnation, he said, adding that those with higher education qualifications should be considered. Legal Services Director, the TSC, said the Commission and SRC conducted job evaluations and separated the jobs of administrative teachers from those in the non-administrative cadres. He said any promotions must be conducted as advised by the SRC. So the argument has been, come on, we have the basic degree or whatever, right? We go back, we get a master's, we get a PhD. The assumption is that we're going to come back into the service and
just keep rising.
SRC is the one who handles this, not the TSC. And now they're saying, well, TSC should consider it. And right now, promotions are pegged on the school. If you're at a national school, for example, the likelihood of you being promoted after years of service is higher than somebody who may have higher qualifications and is in an ex-county school, for example. And they're saying this should not be the case. TSC says, not our forest, not our monkeys.
But this is something that doesn't seem to fit in with what is known, stated, and written mandate of the TSE. Because it is registering, employing, promoting, disciplining, and paying teachers.
They do promote. However, they're saying they are promoting based on the cadre of school and not your academic qualifications. Teachers are saying it should be academic qualifications that are taken into consideration.
There's a fallacy. There's a fallacy in that particular statement because it is the same organization that would employ teachers who had certain certificates, P1, P2, P3, before some of them were phased out. The same Teachers Service Commission that would employ people with the diplomas. It's the same people who would employ people who have degrees. And they had different cadres. And when you attained a degree, your salary changed because your qualifications were different. What is this thing that they're telling us that is different now?
Because now there's a body called SRC.
I understand the SRC. I am not misunderstanding it.
SRC now, they're saying, has created these structures of pay grades and job groups and all those things. So if they came and looked at the teachers' service and their terms of service and then the remuneration, so they've already set a structure. Now, TSC is basically saying now, because of that structure, we are only operating within these parameters. And those parameters, even if you've gone, you're employed in a certain school, but you've come back with a master's degree. So what are we supposed to do with you? Is it promote you in this same school? If we promote you, we have got to move you into this other area. Do we have...
we need to bring somebody from the Teacher Service Commission and
to
the SRC to explain this.
To explain.
Yes, because this is not a complaint that arose today.
No, that's why
it's
I said it's been there. Yes.
It has been there. I'm saying this because it's been even when I taught, and that was in the previous century, and it was a really long time ago. And the discussion was, a certain structure was put in place to enable teachers to be promoted up to the level. Up to the
qualification.
Yes, of a deputy commissioner. Up to that level. Meaning you could be a class teacher, but that is your rank.
You're still in class.
You're teaching. Because there can only be one headmaster and one deputy, or even at the most two deputies. So that your achievements are not undermined, there is a process by which you can continuously be promoted. So you're a class teacher, but you are the equivalent of such and such a person.
Indeed.
In the medical services, you'll find somebody is a med sup, say in Embu or Meru. But their position is probably that of the level of a deputy, what?
Commissioner.
No, not even commissioner. Permanent secretary. Meaning, it doesn't really matter. You get to a point where, given the way they promote and they look at your qualifications, it doesn't matter what you're doing.
So can you be earning the salary of a certain job group, but doing the job of another different job group?
Yes. Simply because your experience and your knowledge enable you. Because in government, they don't promote you because you got a degree. No.
They promote you because of your wealth of experience.
Actually,
plus other things.
There are interviews upon interviews upon interviews that you need to go through before you go for any promotion.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's possible that you're saying it's possible that you are working somewhere and your junior earns more than you.
Yes, it is.
That's how you're in Maisha again.
No, it's not Maisha. Your junior may be junior in terms of position, but not in terms of rank. The person may have worked longer than you. The person may have even a better experience than you. There are people who didn't want to be head teachers or deputies.
Yeah.
They wanted to be classroom teachers.
Yeah.
That was the thinking. Let me just explain something to you. Because of industrial action, there was a time even in banks you would find a cashier earning more than a manager. Simply because every time there's industrial action and they're given
something.
Precisely. So the manager is manager, but you have a teller who's earning more than you. They've been in the bank longer, and by virtue of that, they're able to earn more.
Yep.
It's a subject of debate that we need to bring the SRC and the TSC to clarify.
I think so.
That's true.
We should.
In Mombasa, Wiper was serious.
Just in Mombasa.
They were not joking.
Okay.
When there was this whole conversation of, Sonko could vie again in Mombasa.
He's vying.
Sonko has been given the Wiper ticket to run as governor of Mombasa County.
God.
In what is being reported as something that could raise Kalonzo Musyoka's stakes on the negotiation table in the Azimio One Kenya Alliance coalition, the party has given Sonko the nod to run alongside Kisauni MP Ali Mbogo to be his running mate. This is where the joke now starts. Kalonzo says, Mombasa cannot wait for Sonko's reign. The whole country anticipates Sonko's return. He is loved all over. Sonko has agreed to run for a 5-year term. Sonko has said just 5 years and then Bogo will take over in the next general election. Kalonzo also says Sonko has agreed to cede 60% of his government to Bogo in appreciation of the power dynamics of the coastal city. So Sonko will be governor, but he'll only have 40% of the 10.
So Sonko will be governor of Nairobi, but the management
will be
Igade. Okay. Right.
In what stratosphere of circus are these folks operating?
Sonko will only have a say on 4 CECs. His deputy will appoint 6 CECs.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
But you know what this does? The person who might benefit from all this is Omar Hassan. UDA may just have may just have acquired the breathing space that they needed.
Why?
Division of votes. Because remember, there's a very huge.
So one Kenya, Azimio, one Kenya now has Sonko, has Abdul Swamad.
Yes, because if you're talking about the votes in Mombasa, the Kamba population in Mombasa is vast. All right. Now you bring in Abdul Swamad and his brigade. If Shabal hasn't thrown in his hat and goes in as an independent, oh my goodness, they will give that thing to Omar Hassan. They will actually give it to him because
Splinter straight gone.
Yes, they'll split. Now this guy will come in.
Atapita katikati
yao.
Keep it here for more conversations in the next hour. We are sinking wells, 30 wells by the end of this calendar year.
Yes.
Working with Colgate?
Yes. Imagine how difficult it must be for children to split their chores between going to school and then going to get water for their families. And in most cases, that water has been dirty. Colgate, in a collaboration with Well Boring, has made sure that many have gotten water over the years and want to do 30 more around Kenya for 120,000 Kenyans. How can you make it? How can you be part of this? Buy a packet of Colgate exclusively at Naivas, and 10 shillings from that goes to making sure that 30 more water wells are sunk around the country, and then children can focus on what children ought to
be doing. Good morning, 7 o'clock.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world.
Azimio la Umoja, One Kenya Lands Council has formed an advisory panel to recommend possible running mates for Orange Democratic Movement leader Raila Odinga ahead of the August polls. The decision was made during the inaugural meeting since Azimio coalition was formed and was chaired by President Uhuru Kenyatta. In a statement read by Azimio la Umoja, One Kenya Secretary General Junaid Mohammed, the council said that the technocrat team will guide the movement. Safina Kenya presidential candidate Jimmy Wanjigi has emphasized that he will be on the ballot come 9th of August. Wanjigi stated that he had the right experience and knowledge to make him the superior candidate for the job. Wanjigi rubbished the two-horse race narrative and told Kenyans to look forward to his manifesto set to be launched in a month's time that will articulate his economic and youth empowerment agenda. The businessman-cum-politician has criticized the mass borrowing and inflated cost of state projects by the Jubilee administration and pledged to revive the economy if given the people's vote. Protests continue to rock the United Democratic Alliance Party primaries in Embu, with the section of members of the county assembly aspirants who lost claiming that the nominations were shambolic and far from the free, fair, verifiable and credible process they had been promised. The aspirants drawn from various wards across the county alleged that the nominations were marred with immense irregularities, including predetermined results, rigging, voter bribery and ballot stuffing. Speaking in Embu Town, the aspirants claimed that there was a plan to rig in some preferred candidates from the onset, as returning and presiding officers as well as clerks were drawn from supporters of the said favourite aspirants. And Wiper Democratic Movement has cleared former Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko to vie for the governor's seat in Mombasa County. This comes after the Wiper Democratic Movement cleared him, with the party leader Kalonzo Musyoka promising to ensure Sonko clinches the seat. Sonko will be deputized by Kisauni MP Alvin Bogo. Kalonzo Musyoka exuded confidence that the party will trounce their opponents in the August polls. Now, aspirants who have lost in political party nominations have 10 days from today to seek elective positions as independent candidates. Majority of those who lost in the just concluded party primaries have expressed dissatisfaction with the nomination process in various parties. According to the elections calendar, Thursday midnight was the deadline for all political parties to have conducted nominations across the country. Though nomination certificates can be issued after the 21st of April, a party's candidate in any elected position can't be identified through consensus, universal suffrage, or opinion polls after the deadline. Now, 3 people linked to the murder of a Jomo Kenyatta University of Science and Technology student last Tuesday have been detained for 14 more days to allow the police complete investigations. This is after the investigating officer, Peter Kaiburi, made a miscellaneous application to hold suspects to enable him to comply with all requirements before formally charging them. Joseph Mushiri, Kefa Mwaniki and Paul Mbatha are being held for allegedly stabbing to death Joel Juma, a 4th-year industrial chemistry student at Juja Town on Tuesday morning. And the government has mobilized the appropriate security mechanisms in a bid to address skirmishes that have led to the loss of lives and property along the Meru, Isiolo and Samburu boundaries in the recent past. Internal Security Secretary Wilson Jenga says the government plans to recruit more national police reservists from both Isiolo and Meru counties who will closely work with the Anti-Stock Theft Unit, General Service Unit and regular police officers to ensure that the emerging security concerns in the area are addressed amicably. Jenga says the contingent of security personnel will be engaged in search of stolen animals and ensure the safety of lives and property for the sake of peace and development in the region. Now, the East African Community Heads of States have directed all armed groups in the Democratic Republic of Congo to participate unconditionally in the political process to resolve their grievances. The proposed mechanism is aimed at facilitating the implementation of the country's political and military and security enforcement tracks. The proposal was delivered by 5 heads of state: Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta, Yoweri Museveni of Uganda, Paul Kagame of Rwanda, Evariste Ndayishimiye of Burundi, and the DRC counterpart Felix Tshisekedi at the heads of state conclave on the Democratic Republic of Congo convened in Nairobi. In a statement, the leaders were categorical that all foreign armed groups in the DRC must disarm and return unconditionally and immediately to their respective countries of origin. This is Newswire. Dennis Assetto. Good morning.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
It's building up on Mombasa Road, and we're looking at that traffic going out into the city this morning. The Southern Bypass is also taking a hit here with some stuff coming off of the Likoni interchange, just a little bit here and there. We had a bit of a problem at that nook of the Southern Bypass yesterday. Looks like we're piling up for some again this morning. Mombasa Road, like we said, already piling up and moving out in the other direction towards North Airport Road, and then also in this direction towards the city. So it looks like it's going to be that busy morning. We're also seeing Outer Ring with bumper-to-bumper traffic heading in a northerly direction. Coming off Manyanja Road as well, Jogger Road, bumper to bumper right now, and it doesn't look pretty at all. Uhuru Highway, that started really early. Look at that stretch between the Langata Road junction and the Haile Selassie junction. It's bumper to bumper already inbound to the city. The Thika Superhighway looking crazy. Also on Kiambu Road, we're looking at traffic then going into the city. Coming out of Westlands, that's likely to pile up a few minutes around 7:30. We'll keep an eye on things. Let us know what's going on where you are, and we'll keep you abreast of situations here as well. SpiceFM KE talks to us there. Text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist,
It's 7 minutes after 7.
a man who believes in punching up,
Situation
not
Room.
down.
Welcome to the second hour of our show. We are here from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday morning. Before we introduce our guest and the topic for the next hour, let's hear the day's proverb. CT.
A person who never experienced evil does not know the worth of what is good.
Person who never experienced evil does not know the worth of what is good.
They may think they have an idea, but they don't really know the worth. Yes.
Okay. You don't appreciate what you have.
Not really. Somebody who had it and then lost it
never lacked.
appreciates it much, much more because they really understand. The losing of it is what makes them appreciate what they had. Yes.
Somehow it reminds me of President Uhuru Kenyatta's speech at Sagana 3, was it? It was 3, right?
Are we going to do 4 yet? Or
This,
the 3?
this one of...
This one the other day?
The other day.
Okay.
Where he was telling the leaders and the elders there, please talk to these youth. Because they don't know. They assume that what they're seeing now is what has always been. They don't know the pain that your parents and some of you underwent when you're going to school. You know, they don't know. They look at these things and they assume it's always been like this. Tell them there's been progress. Tell them where we are now. We have moved from very far. Maybe that is a direct application of that probably.
It is because you see look at our neighbors and look at the turmoil that we see across our borders. Part of the reason why I think Kenyans are aware to a greater degree of those problems is because of 2008.
Yes.
If we'd never had a 2008 movement, we would be very theoretical about problems and upheavals and difficulties. But because of 2008, and because to date, many of the issues that arose then have not been settled, they are still pending. People are aware. But then the human mind is such that people tend to forget quickly.
Very quickly.
Yes. And they also tend to move quickly into the realm of assuming that it didn't happen, when we know full well it actually did happen. Yes.
And so they're not able even to pass on that information to the newer generations.
Yes.
This is exactly how it was.
And then there are those who actually just want to avoid any situation that is difficult or painful. You want to just push it away. The problem is pushing it away doesn't move it away. You simply shelve it. It's right there waiting for you at some point.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's introduce our guest. Haron Kiriba is the CEO of Mizani Africa, a polling company. He's a researcher, statistician. He joins us now in the Situation Room. Good morning, Haron.
Good morning.
Good to have you in the Situation Room. Welcome. That's the hot seat.
Thank you. Good to have me on board.
We're going to discuss a number of things that an organization such as yours has been involved in. So, in the party primaries, in the last 3 days, we've been discussing the ongoing and concluding political party nominations.
Yeah.
We have seen a lot of consensus being applied in this particular nomination exercise, unlike in previous years, where, it's either all the candidates who are vying for a certain seat, you're brought together and you're told, all right, so let's pick one among you for using whatever discussions. We now even get to understand that all these parties have mechanisms for nomination that not only just say people must queue to vote, but they'll also use scientific data to know who's a stronger candidate. Then they'll use that information to have negotiations and be able to select the winning candidate. Now, this scientific data, what we've been hearing is polls. In some cases, polls have been used here and there. Have your polls been used to pick candidates in these nominations?
Most definitely. They have been used.
You know this for a fact? Or you know that we have released a poll. It's likely to have been used.
They have been used because we have been even asked by several people, different parties, to provide every poll that we have ever released, I think for the last 3 months. We release polls every week. So We have not, apart from national polls, the rest of the polls in the counties, we release them in piecemeal. So I know we have been asked by several people to provide all of them together. I know from the sources, inside, when negotiations are going on, it's not a thing of very well. But they are using our polls. They are also using polls from other pollsters.
Okay.
So this is a good thing now that we see politicians starting to appreciate science. And you can cut a lot of cost when you go scientific way.
Tell me, I need to understand, what is scientific about this polling? What is it in the process that makes it scientific and then makes it, because the way you present it is, it's credible. Because if it's scientific, then it's credible. So what are the variables within it that make it credible?
Well, in terms of correcting number, they say numbers don't lie. So if we do it properly, we are able to get the right sample size, we are able to do the right randomizing when we are correcting our data, we can be able to tell who is doing well on the ground.
Yes.
Now, of course, there is a way, there is a formula where we are able to get all those margin of error and all that. And if that is done properly, we don't have to go all the way to a county to spend $1 million or $2 million or $5 million.
I agree. Now, explain properly. Yes. I'd like our viewers to understand, because when they hear of polling and why it is they're so influential, it is good for them to understand what is it, the ingredients within it that make it. Like when you say sampling.
Okay.
And you say random. So is it purposive? Is it... What is it that when someone looks at one, then has no doubt that this thing actually presents the true picture of what is actually
of ground.
Exactly. On the ground.
Yes.
I think that is the language of the Mwananchi. Now, so when we want to conduct a poll or a research, the first thing is to understand what we are looking for. The question, the hypothesis. What's the question? We want to establish who is doing well in this area. If elections are held today, and we always do, if elections are held today, because tomorrow could be a different day.
Tomorrow is a different day altogether.
And decisions can change. So that's why we always indicate, so that if you look at our date, it's clear. If a serious event happened tomorrow and things have changed, do not judge us based on tomorrow. So the first thing is to establish that question. What do we want to achieve? We want to understand, if elections are held today, who would you vote for? So that's the question. Now, next, who is going to answer this? Where do we get these people? So there are two ways. We can either go to the field, face to face, or we can decide to call if you have enough contacts. Now, the other very important part is to possibly establish whether we have information or contacts, or we can be able to get to spread our sampling all over. Now, I'll explain the sampling. A sample size is a representation of the whole. If we have 1,000 people, we can decide to go for 100 who represent 1,000.
Do you look at the age, religion, background within this 10% or whatever that you look at?
Exactly. That we call that demographics. Every time we are presenting, we give what we call demographics details. And that we give age, we give education, occupation, income levels, all that. All that represent who, we'll tell you who answered this and what percentage of them that answered this. So that if you feel that you have more following in under 30 or under 40, and possibly we did only 25% of under 40, then you know possibly, that's why we always have a margin of error. We may not be very correct, but not very far from what we got. But let me go back to the sampling. If we go out there, and for us now, we have been doing calling because we have enough data, we have enough contacts all over the country. If we go out there face to face, sometimes we have challenges of getting to the interior, getting to reach the right people, getting to go to the office and to the houses and to ask questions. But when we call, we are able to reach even those people who are in the houses. But most importantly is that we randomize. Randomize is getting random people without
predetermining who.
That's important so that we are not biased.
It's like pata potea.
Yeah, so we have a software where we put all those numbers, and it's made in a way it can generate very scientifically well correct randomized sample. So we give it 100,000 and we want 2,000. It can give us a very beautiful random,
which is clearly representative of the 100,000.
Yes.
How do you guarantee the spread of that sample? So, for instance, you're doing a poll in Nairobi County, and you want to know popularity or what people are thinking, whatever question you want to ask, if elections are held today,
yes,
who would you pick as your governor? Okay. How do you know that the people that have been selected from your database by this software are cut across
all
residential areas or boroughs of Nairobi, that you're not just focusing on 40% of your sample will be from one part of Nairobi?
A very good question. So what we have is data for every ward. So if we subject that data for the ward into the system, we get a sample from there. And then another ward, and finally, we have what we want. So if we are looking for 2,500 and we divide that by 17, proportion to the size of the ward of the constituency, we're able to get a certain figure from every ward, and finally we have that data, which represent every ward. And we know when we ask them question, whatever they say is going to be representative enough.
Harun, one of the things you said, which then puzzles me a little bit, is that opinions change, things change from today to tomorrow.
Yeah.
And you're asking a question on a particular day. And the person who is going to consume this information as a result of these polls is banking on this information to then make a decision about future activity.
Yes.
How do I make a decision about future activity on information that is presented to me for today that could possibly change tomorrow?
Now, since I think that's a good question, but you see, the future is made today. Tomorrow, you plan your tomorrow based on today. So at the end of the day, for us as pollsters is to present what we have found today. If you think there can be consistency based on what we have, you can use it.
Okay.
But there are situations where you look at what has been presented, and you also look at what has not been presented, and you also look at other possibilities that are likely to ensue. So possibly, let's say, someone is popular or someone is number 2 in terms of popularity. But when you look at another question of, are you aware whether this person is vying? And then you get that, so when we do that question of awareness, we ask, do you know anyone who is vying for this position? And then people will mention someone. And then you ask them, have you heard of another, except that one mentioned? I also know another. And any other? Yeah. There is also another. Now, based on that, then based on that, then we can do some analysis. And we can say that the first character has been mentioned first by 78% of those who mentioned him. Right. Only 12% mentioned him second, and only 3% mentioned him third. Now, the second one got most of his mentioning at number 2. So the question of awareness arises. This person has not sold himself properly or has not gone out into the... But when we look at now the preference, we can actually create a correlation between the preference and the state of awareness. If we realize that most of the people are mentioning you second, and we can look at that kind of balance, and then you look at the preference, we can actually tell possibly those who know you or actually prefer you most. You could be known by 60% or 12%, but all of them vote for you. That means if this person was more known, he could get more preference. Now, back to you. So we have this information today. This is what it says. But we have another information that says the probability of this next or second person doing better is even higher if given a chance to sell himself better. So the question, the issue is not preference, it's about awareness. And awareness can be achieved within the next 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, based on whatever time they have. Now, so we can provide information for today, but we can also provide information that helps people to make a decision based on...
they can plan for tomorrow.
Plan for tomorrow based on what they can see today.
Do you also ask, as you're asking, are you aware?
Yeah.
Do you ask the source? How did you become aware? It could have been, it was word of mouth. It could be, billboards. It could be whatever. How did you become aware? Is that important?
Yeah, it's important. But that one comes in when you are doing private research.
Okay.
So for the people who have billboards, people who have been on social media, people who are using social influencers, people who have been going to media stations, we want to know, if they want to know which one is more effective. We do that and we provide that information. It's clear, it's easy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So political parties then have been using information from yourselves and the other pollsters to see who is the better candidate, who stands a better chance of clinching this seat.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And who stands a better chance of then also popularizing their party on the ground.
Okay.
From what you've seen, from the data that you've been collecting, the polls that you've conducted, and then the results of those who are receiving nomination certificates, are parties listening to research?
I can say categorically, I think they are doing. They are listening. They are listening to statistics. They are listening to pollsters. They are following up. I looked at what happened in Western Gishu. I saw what happened in Nandi, Kerishu, Bomet. I think I have that information clearly. All the people that we said will actually go through, I think we only missed about one. The young lady in, I think,
Toto.
in Bomet. All the others we got right, 100%. So I think that's why, again, even those who are, I don't know to mention possibly names, the parties that are still working on possibly on getting people on board in terms of nominations, they are trusting our polls. Because I've been asked several times to provide all that information in a consolidated way, and that means they are using it. I've also been informed by people who are inside that they are using it. They are actually checking who is doing well, so that even as they do their own, they are able to compare. Because they could do their own as they are influenced. So if you have 2 or 3, you are able to get a certain middle ground.
In this particular case of Bomet,
Yes.
sorry, Siti. So in the particular case of Bomet, where Toto emerged the winner with good numbers, why do you think you missed it?
Well, I think because we had a month or 2, I think 2 months, we did 2 months before, that could change. That's why we always say according to today. And we give dates very clearly. It was conducted between 17th and 24th. So that anything that happened on 25th was not captured. And we actually enumerate events. Events, major events that took place after we have conducted. If you look at our data, like for example, when we released some national data after the Sagana 3, we actually said when this was happening is when we were concluding our research. So we may not have captured the full impact of resolutions. We also mentioned resolutions in the major events that happened thereafter in ODM and Jubilee and the rest. So we normally do that, and I think that is possibly something we could have missed. Within 2 months is a long time.
Okay. But also there's this little concept that comes into polling.
Yes.
It is referred to as the Bradley effect. You call people and you ask them questions, but they tell you what they think you want to hear. In essence, they don't actually answer what you're asking. They figure if this person is asking, so the information you get is actually what you are given, but it is not representative of the truth, which the people who are answering know full well, but they are not going to tell you. For instance, local preferences in an election, what it is, or the changes that come about. Sometimes the locals may know it, but they don't voice it, but they know that this is how they're going to go about what they're going to do. So when you ask a question and they don't know you, it is fine. They will tell you what they think they ought to tell you. But what they really think and know, they will not tell you. So when you give your results, yes, it will be based on what you were told, but it will be based on what they wanted you to hear.
Are you able to gauge the honesty of your respondents?
Well, this is a bit, it's a tricky statement. And I want to say this, from my experience, I think people are candid enough. They are open enough, especially when you can't see them. They speak their mind. They speak their mind, they advise you, they even tell you, advise that person not to go for that position, to come back. Wanakwambia mwambie aziende kwa governor arudi.
Actually, the opposite is true. You think the opposite is actually true in many cases. You see, if you talk to people and ask them a question, you see, you're asking questions within an existing framework of social norms. So when they respond, when you talk to them, and they don't know you, yes, that anonymity may actually be beneficial to you. But it is not a guarantee that they'll tell you what you are really looking for.
I know there is a possibility of error, and that's why we always indicate a margin of error. You will see us saying plus or minus 3, plus or minus 4, plus or minus 5, where we feel we could have missed a lot.
Let me tell you why I am pushing this particular perspective.
All right.
Once upon a time, call-ins from pollsters was unusual. It is no longer unusual. People know.
Yeah.
Because when you call in, you explain. I am this and this.
Yeah.
I want this and this.
Yes.
And I need to know this and this.
That's true.
Okay? Now, the existing framework that I speak of is the person you're talking to already has preferences.
Mm-hmm.
They already know the candidate they want to choose. They already know why they want to choose, even as you're talking to them.
Yes.
Now, what I'm saying is, when something is known among people, the very thing that you're avoiding with your scientific method is what may come into play.
Mm-hmm.
It now becomes an open polling situation where people have already talked about this thing. It's something that people discuss as a normality. So when you call, you're not talking to somebody who is unbiased. This person is already biased. They already have a preference. And because they have a preference, there's a way in which they'll respond. This is my thinking. Now, then that moves into the realm of what we call voodoo polling, where science is out of the window completely. Yeah? So it's just conjecture, and there's nothing you can go back on to verify what you've said and so forth, which is what science does for you. And I'm saying that, in my mind, it plays a fairly important role when it comes to people giving their opinion. That's all I'm saying.
I think what we do first, and this is the training that we have, is that first we establish the rapport. When we call someone, we tell them who we are, what we are looking for, and we ask them politely if they can give us a few minutes. The first thing is that we want to establish that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
We know some people will refuse to answer. Some will just say, I don't care, or some will say they have no time. But we have had actually most of them, and that's why we always say we always have a margin of error, because we know a good number have really answered with their heart. Others could be lying. But I'll tell you this. It is very interesting that when you call most of the people, they are very happy to express themselves. They are very happy because they say we never had this chance. We always hear people ask questions. I'm very happy to answer this, to be part of this. Have you not heard this? Hii kitu inafanyagwa wapi? Mimi sijai ulizwa swali. This is an urge actually to be given a chance to express themselves. And I can tell you for 97% will be happy if they respond and they are not refusing to respond. If they answer to your call and they are listening, they are very happy to express themselves. In fact, they give you, in fact, we have to cut them short. They want to talk and talk and talk. Yeah.
It's interesting.
Kama juzi alikuja hapa na hakutuachia kitu.
Kutoka tumuchague, haja hairudi huku. Huyo kwanza tunasikia anaenda governor. Acha kwanza ni kijana, arudi. They have a lot of beautiful advice.
Haran, is that taken into consideration when these questions are being formulated? To know that, or from your experience, that folks are going to add a lot more to what you may ask them. And so, does then that form the basis upon which your questions are asked? Sometimes, for those of us who ask questions on a daily basis, sometimes you ask a question in a certain manner to elicit a certain response. Is that done, or do you just ask the question in its blank form and you take whatever answer comes? Or do you formulate it in a certain way to elicit a certain response?
Okay, there are possibly two ways of asking question or formulating questions. One is an open question. An open question is a question where you are open to any answer. The next one is closed question, where you have choices. Like, if I know exactly who is vying for gubernatorial positions in Nairobi, I will give you all those. Then I will just have to tick one. The other one is now where you are taking me, where you ask a question and you want to hear what they have to say. Anything comes, and you write, and possibly that one comes in when we are doing private. Because it requires a lot of analysis. But it's good when people possibly be asking, have you heard of any project that Mheshimiwa so-and-so has accomplished or has started and it is done? So you know you hear anything. Or how would you describe Honorable so-and-so as a leader? Now you know you're going to get 1,000 answers. So when we ask that question, now we are looking for descriptive analysis. We are looking for descriptions, and we do descriptive analysis. So we're going to get anything. We are ready for any answer, and then we are able to cluster that into some specific possible, sensible terminologies that can describe that those kind of descriptions or pronunciations.
Time for a break. It's 28 minutes to 8. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Haron Kiriba is the CEO of Mizani Africa. He's a polling company in the country. He's a researcher. His polls have been used by the various political groupings in the country in this time to look at the popularity of their aspirants and also to determine who they're going to give the nomination certificates. And he says they've actually been used, and some political parties are using just research to determine who they're going to give their political nomination tickets. Keep it here for more conversations coming up. Remember, $760 a month, that's a beginning, say, starting point. With $760 a month, you get access to good content on Showmax, but that's not the only one. So with $760, that's the basic subscription, and then you can go ahead and select what other kind of content you want, and you top up a little bit. Crime and Justice is available on this basic one of $760 a month, alongside other very, very good shows, TV shows, series. You said series and telenovelas and dramas, and what else are different?
Soap operas.
Soap operas, all those things are different.
Oh, they call it within the same alliance.
Movies, films, pictures are different.
Documentary, sports.
Keep it here for more. Good morning.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Brought to you by Colgate.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
The new school term is here, and Sarit, your city, is bringing you a massive back-to-school sale. Head down to Sarit, your city, from the 18th to the 27th of April to enjoy offers and discounts from participating outlets, including Textbook Center, Nairobi Sports House, Harrier Uniforms, Bata, City Walk, Toy World, among others, with plenty of activities and entertainment options.
Cloudy conditions and rain
family.
in Nairobi
Sarit,
at 16, highs of 22. We'll see lows of 16. At 16, it's cloudy in Nakuru. We'll see highs of 23. 23 will also be the high in Nyeri, where it's raining at 16, and Eldoret is cloudy at 16, highs of 21 and lows of 14. A bit of sunshine in Mombasa this morning at 26, highs of 31 and lows of 24. The sun is also out in Malindi at 26 with highs of 31. We'll see lows of 25. It's raining in Kisumu at 20, highs of 25 and lows of 19, while it's mostly cloudy in Kakamega at 17. We'll see highs of 25 and lows of 16. Sunny conditions in Kampala at 18, 25 will be the high. We'll see highs of 30 in a cloudy Dar es Salaam, currently at 25. At 12 degrees, Johannesburg is clear, highs of 21 and lows of 11, while at mostly clear conditions in Lagos, it's 25 degrees. We'll see highs of 32. Light rain in Kinshasa at 23, highs of 32 today, back down to lows of 23.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
Mombasa Road is doing the business this morning, and we have quite some traffic then in and outbound. Looking at that Holy Maradima stretch, and that's inbound to the city. Over the hill and down through to General Motors, it's slowing down considerably. We're also looking at some coming off Cabanas out towards North Airport Road, and then spilling over to Outer Ring this morning. That is looking like a place you do not want to be right now. Plus, it's raining, so, mishmash of that. The industrial area square of Jogo Road, Lunga Lunga, Lusaka, and then to Likoni this morning is also quite tight. Getting off of Jogo Road and out towards Landis, where it's doing the business right around Kamkunji at the roundabout, and then onto Haile Selassie. Very slow this morning. Langata Road joining, Rilo Dingaway taking off some of that, going then towards Gong Road. And then we're looking at traffic going towards Westlands, and that's really busy as well. Let's take a look at the thickest superhighway. Do we want to? Okay, it's not so bad this morning. A little bit of traffic then just past the Utali Drift, out then towards the Pangani Underpass. Kiambu Road bumper to bumper in both directions, as well as Limuru Road. It's that morning, folks. Friday is looking crazy. Let's keep taking a look in a short while and see what it looks like. Talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
23 minutes to 8. Kenya's biggest conversation continues. Eric Latiff, Ndu Okoh, CT Muga. Our guest is Haron Kiriba from Mizani Africa, a polling agency. Yesterday, President Uhuru Kenyatta chaired the 12-member summit of the Azimio One Kenya Alliance. It's called what? The Council. And top on the agenda of this council was to look at their presidential candidate, Raila Odinga, and then the running mates. And according to reports, and not just from reports, but what they emerged and told us is that they have agreed to form a 7-member team to pick the lucky man or woman who is to be Raila Odinga's running mate. According to Junet Mohammed, the Council Secretary General, we have mandated an advisory panel to recommend suitable candidates for running mate. The Council also resolves to appoint an advisory panel to recommend... they are repeating the same thing, these standard people. A report soon thereafter emerged that the council had shortlisted 4 candidates to deputize Raila. Kenya's Martha Karua, Wipers Kalonzo Musyoka, Mombasa Governor and ODM Deputy Party Leader Ali Hassan Joho, and Agriculture CS Peter Munya. But Dennis Onsarigo, who is the Raila Presidential Campaign Secretary, says those are fake reports. When we have communication, we do it on official letterhead. How can we have names when the panel expected to interview them has just been set up? Makes sense. But now, Haron, this running mate the issue is a big one. Every, conversation now is going to the running mate. Now it's about somebody being told who your running mate is going to be. Same conversation is happening about the Kenya Kwanza. What's our deal? What have we signed? Who deserves to get the running mate conversation? I'm sure you've been getting this as well.
Yeah.
From the various political formations. What are they asking for?
Well, I will start by saying that there's an elephant in the room. And an elephant in the room will keep on stepping on in everyone and creating confusion. But I think it is the right time we tackle it properly and possibly in a very sober way. And I think to have a council is a good thing, so that we have possibly a good number of people, a number of people coming up together and possibly providing the best way. When you brainstorm, you're likely to come up with the best candidate. We have been doing our research, and I think 1 month ago we released, around 11th of March, we released a poll, the result of a poll we had conducted on this issue. And most of these guys that have been mentioned were also in our list. And we conducted the poll in a different way. We actually sought some mature people, around 163, around Mount Kenya region. The reason why we did Mount Kenya region is because we think, based on the numbers on the ground, because we know most of these positions will go to where the numbers are coming from, or something like that. We sought opinions of people who are a bit mature, people who are running, people who have been to school, and possibly we wanted to understand, because we realized that the normal Wajiko does not understand what it entails. So
what doesn't the Wanjiku understand?
What it possibly entails to have a running mate and possibly to have a DP out of that. So they always mention the very popular name that is close to them. But we wanted to possibly get more than just a name.
Sorry, Aaron.
All right.
Can I just interject before you go, so that we can have an understanding of what you're saying?
All right.
If we're saying the common Wajiko doesn't understand beyond the popularity of name,
yes,
are you talking about the form and function of this position in terms of what a deputy then would do, the roles that they would assume? We're saying common Wajiko doesn't understand, by and large, what this individual then ought to do.
Okay. Yeah. If we are asking a question, who would be the best, it goes beyond the name they know. Because if you look at the names, if you ask them, who do you think is the best? They'll give you the names that are already existing.
Okay.
But if you ask them why, they don't have answers.
Or why would this person be the best?
Yeah, they don't know.
Okay.
They don't know.
So they would not be able to tell you something like, well, this individual, he or she has a great track record in wherever they worked before, or politically they've been able to garner support, kind of thing. It doesn't exist.
That's what they'll be able to add to this campaign.
Now, let me just add on that. if we subject them to possibly comment on integrity, the normal Wajiko, because if you look at our analysis of demographics, we have people who have not gone to school, others who have gone to primary level, as high school and all that. The normal guy, who actually most of them are below Form 4, they are not able to analyze this person in terms of integrity, in terms of ability to perform, in terms of leadership, experience, in terms of, if we talk about charisma, they're not able to understand that very well.
These common Wanjikos are the very people who are members of SACCO, members of groups who have leaders. The same process that you're speaking about is what they use in determining who's going to lead their border SACCO or the market SACCO. I want to venture and say that they do have the ability to determine the very thing you're saying they don't. They may not be able to voice it, but then that would bring me to the question of what question do you ask them? How do you ask it? Because if you ask it in the manner that you would ask if you were seeking a response to a political process based on science, the question is what may be above their head because of what is asked. But if you ask the same question differently, you may be able to get, because you are trying to say that they don't understand the norms that are required for leadership. They do. You're saying they don't understand the qualities that they're looking for. They do. They do have a very clear idea of what they want. I don't think they look at the leaders and just say, we are familiar with this person and it ends there. I don't think so.
Okay. Possibly I wouldn't like to extend that further, because what I mean is this. For a certain question, you will go to, even those we asked who are quite learned, are same Wajiko. It's only that there is a question I ask you, and there is a question I will expect good answers from another person who is in a different level. So if I want to possibly a beautiful judgment, why do we have a classification of education and all that? Why do we have this summit today of those people who have been selected? It's because they believe these guys will help them be able to get the best. Although they can actually run a poll across the country, but they think these guys can be able to do better analysis, which is going to be beneficial to everyone. Now, I'm saying this because we wanted to possibly get deeper understanding of what this office entails, and for those who have experience in administration, in management, in political, whatever, what do they think? And we are not saying this is the best thing that can ever be. This is what we did. And I'm happy because I see the same names appearing, even when others start mentioning possible names. So we did something, and we found some names that came up. And we were looking at political affiliation, consistency, people who have been, because I believe the principals will be looking for people who they can work with, they have been working with. We were looking at integrity, the track record, the screen. They are not tainted so much with a lot of issues. Leadership experience, people who have a bit of experience in terms of leadership. Effective communicators, people who can go out there and campaign, people who can convince the populace. If there is a crisis, we need someone who can go out there possibly and talk to people and let them cool down, explain situations in a beautiful way. Charisma, it is important now in political, in a time like this, someone who can be able to move the masses. That's an important person. In some people who are not even very much learned, but they are very good at moving people. We're also looking at age advantage. So those are some of the issues we were looking at.
Why are these important in a running mate?
Now, based on our research, and possibly we will see whether that can be captured in the summit or the group that have been taken. We think, one, if it is affiliation, political affiliation, by the way, we know the principles. We know that we have two principles, Right Honorable Raila Odinga and Deputy President. These are the people who are leading the pack. So, for a running mate, it must be someone they can work with.
Okay.
So that is one thing. So when we are looking for, or we are looking forward to seeing a running mate, we know this must be someone who can work with the Deputy President from his side and Raila Odinga from the other side.
Someone who can follow instructions.
Yeah, who can follow instructions. They have been working together. So that gelling, they can gel with.
Okay.
When we look at integrity, we need someone who has a clean track record. At least not so much intoxication with a lot of past events of corruption and all those things, because they will come to haunt them. When they are going out there and they are competing, the other side will be talking about Winsi, Kora, all those things.
They'll mention this person's past.
Yeah, it will be detrimental.
Scandal.
Yeah, those scandals. They might be there, they might be insweeted, but they'll come out. So experienced leadership, not very important, but it was mentioned as an important thing that can be considered when possibly the principals are looking for someone to deputize them. Experience, a bit of experience, but not so much. And I will explain. Because a novice of a DP is not a novice where too much experience is needed. It is a novice where experience is gained. Because these are people who work under instruction. So most of the time they are guided on what to do, where to do it, and what time. Effective communicator, we have said this is a person who can be able to communicate information, articulate facts, and be able to guide the country where need be. Charisma is very important. There are people who are hot. When they go out there, you can see everyone is coming up. I mean, is excited about them. In a time like this, when campaigns are being done, even later, this is going to be an important person. You remember during the times of former President Kibaki, when Raila came in and said Kibaki Tosha, and because of the accident, it is the Raila and his group that really conducted the campaigns. If they were not able to do that, it could have been detrimental. But they were up to the task. So, because these are guys who are charismatic enough, and that's why possibly he still remains strong up to this day. Age advantage. Age advantage is important because the office of or learning mate, which transmute into DP for the winning team, is a novice of mentorship. Is a novice of grooming, is a novice of preparation. A DP's office has nothing much apart from preparing you for the future. So age advantage comes in where the young people are given an opportunity to get into that office, because if it is about leadership, a DP may not provide much, because we know it is the president that calls the shot in this country, in Africa. And even in US, wherever, this is the president who is leading everything. But by being in that office, you know you are being prepared for the future presidency. The question then arises, and if you look at our statistics, you actually see, because we asked later, out of all those factors, which one is more important? And the age factor became more important.
Why?
It became important because of the functions and the role of that office. Because you can be so good, but you are too old. Now, let me explain. Suppose you are 65, and then you are given that office. I know I'll have a problem with my brother here.
65-year-old.
Yeah, but suppose you are given an office and you are 65, and then you are supposed to learn that office for 10 years. By the time you leave that office,
you're 75.
So what are you supposed to do after 75?
Prime age for president.
You go home.
It's the prime age for president.
No, in Africa,
that's the theory.
Now, in Africa, they will take you home. They'll take you home, and so if you look at the African leaders who have done very well, they are quite young, and I want you to look at even I know in US they have produced very old presidents, and they have done well because the systems are also working very well. In Africa, the systems are not working very well. Institutions are not working very well. So the president does a lot of work. He's not guided in so many ways. But I will say this: if in Africa you're going to get support, Africans and Kenyans, the way I see them, they lose traction. At some point, you lose traction if you go a certain level, because you are not able to campaign strongly, because here there is a lot of campaigning, you need a lot of finances and all that. Now, I think because of age, if you look at what has happened in this country since the time of Moi, he was the deputy president, vice president, then became a president. Kibaki the same way. Uhuru was a deputy prime minister, And now we have Honorable Raila Odinga, who was a prime minister. And if you look at Kalonzo Musyoka and the others, they have all been in this office. The first thing I said is that this office is for preparation. Most of the people who get here are people who can become future presidents. So there are two ways. One, we can have a presidential candidate. We possibly they will be looking at someone who can be able to transmit into a presidential candidate. But that is for them now, because I know two things. The principal will be looking for someone who can work with him well. It doesn't matter whether you become a president or not. That is not his business.
That's not his business.
That is not his business. He's looking for someone who can work with him.
Are you a yes person or not?
Yes.
But let me ask this
The
question.
yes.
You know, what you say sounds good. Africa has 7 presidents who are well above 75. Okay? Some are 83, 82, etc., etc., etc. But that's not what I'm getting at.
How old were they when they first assumed office?
Some of them have been there forever.
So they were younger?
They're much, much younger, but they've stayed.
Kedu 64.
Yes,
Some
precisely.
of them started the presidency when their wives were not born.
Yes, exactly. Some started just about 40 and they have continued, meaning these life president types that we have.
Yes.
Now, that's not what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the one component that I've heard you've left out, or maybe it's coming and I've cut you short.
Yes.
Many of these positions you speak of, everything you've said true,
yes,
being taken into consideration, negotiation, the region you come from,
the numbers
you bring in, the balance, vice president, deputy president, as opposed to how many ministerial positions that region may get, how many permanent secretaries that region may get, how many. Those, in my mind, are real bargaining considerations if you're talking about a national government. How many advisors? Where will they come from? There's a whole basket of things that they look at in addition to what you've already said.
That's true.
Now, my question is, what outweighs the other?
I think in this discussion, or whatever we have tackled, it was on personal basis. Then next, we are talking about where he's coming from. We talked about the person, and now where is he coming from, or she coming from? We insinuated that he might or she might be coming from Mount Kenya region. Mount Kenya region has a huge number of voters, and possibly because now they don't have a presidential candidate, they might want to get a running mate from that area as they attempt to lure more and most of the voters to their side. Now, if both of them, that is both the sides, whether it is Kenya Kwanza or Azimio, gets their running mate from Mount Kenya region, now that one is about
But do you consider, for instance, now that Mount Kenya doesn't have one of their own standing,
yes,
that huge voter basket, will they all turn out to vote?
Now we are facing a very serious voter apathy. And that can be, we can get some inference crew from the new registrations.
Yes.
IBC only managed to register about 16% of what they expected. Around 244,000 out of 1.5 million they were expecting to register from Mount Kenya region. So that is a huge apathy, lack of interest. So you look at the voter turnout, it's coming to around 6% or less. In Mount Kenya region, it's highest in primaries. It's highest in Rift Valley and in Nyanza. Also, the new registrations in the same same places because they are motivated. Now
they have a candidate.
They have a candidate that they are motivated to work for.
Yes.
Now let me give you a very good scenario, and possibly this is going to be important for them to consider. Now, for the last 30 years, Mount Kenya region has never had a situation like this. They have either had a president to protect or a very formidable leader they want to get into the presidency. What you had, Turaku, is ant kind of kutoka. So everyone was going out to vote. This year, do you see that coming? What is their motivation?
That's what I asked.
What's their motivation?
So running mate.
It's the same question. So the running mate is going to be very important. And I'm saying this for a fact. The young people who are under 40, they don't understand anything else. Because by the time that started, they were 10. At least for the last 30 years,
they've always seen.
They have always voted their own, whether
candidates.
it is in power or about to get into power. Now, they need a motivation of some kind. They need someone that, although he is not in charge, she is not in charge, she is likely to be in future. What are they protecting? What are they fighting for? Why are they waking up? This is important Because I see a voter apathy of almost 25%.
And that,
if nothing is
if
done.
there's a voter apathy, then what exactly will this deputy from Central the mountain be bringing to the table that would enable them then to bargain for a position as deputy?
Now, there are two things. One, a deputy president or a good running mate would possibly, one, consolidate votes. For those who are already doing well, he or she could consolidate votes. For those who want more votes, I know the side of Raila Odinga, they are looking for more votes in this area. They need a very charismatic running mate from this area who can help them at least get 30% from this area. So this is a person who is going to inspire them, not just in talking, but also the future. This person will tell them, look, support me. I'm getting to that office to be prepared for the future. You know, we always like presidency. It's a language of the politics. It doesn't matter whether other areas they want president. Who cares? It's about numbers.
Everybody can
If you
tell
can
their
get
people
numbers,
the same
you become
story.
the president.
True.
So we are looking at either a woman or a man who can be able to go out there and tell them, I may not have a lot of goods to give now. You have president today. But the future, I will present to you. But this is the way. This is the way out. This is the avenue for me to get that future. I must be in
Starting
that
at
office.
this point.
Yeah.
Okay, Haron. Very interesting conversations. We will hope to have you again on the show, even after they name their running mates, and tell us, was your crystal ball showing you this to be the possible running mates?
All right.
Thank you very much for joining us. Haron Kiriba is the CEO of Mizani Africa, a polling agency. We've been talking about how the polls have determined very many decisions that have been made so far in the political front by political parties, and how they may also determine the choice of running mate by Raila Odinga, by William Ruto. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Keep it here for the next hour. We talk about Kenya Pipeline launching a fiber optic service in the country. What is it all about? Remember, if you walk into Naivas today and buy Colgate, 10 bob out of that will go towards sinking wells, 30 wells that they want to do by the end of this calendar year so that they can benefit communities. Wells sunk in schools. Communities around the schools have access to water. Come fetch water. So that helps the children, that helps the communities. They have access to drink potable water. Kenya's biggest conversation continues in the next hour. Keep it right here. We want to say a very big thank you to Haron Kiriba, who has been with us this morning. Eric Latiff, Okoh, and CT Muga. Good morning. It's 8 o'clock.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. The Anglican Church of Kenya says it will offer counseling to both winners and losers of the August 9 polls as part of efforts to speed up the healing process among the contestants. SCK Archbishop Jackson Elizabeth called on the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission to put in place measures to ensure a free and credible elections in the country. Elizabeth's comments come at a time when a section of aspirants from different political parties have expressed frustration over lack of fairness in the nomination exercise. The United Democratic Alliance has issued a provisional nomination certificate to Simon Mbugua to fly the party's flag in the Starehe parliamentary race. This comes after the Deputy President William Ruto-led party had last week said it would conduct a repeat nomination exercise in the constituency due to incidences of violence. The race for the Starehe MP UDA ticket was largely a two-horse race between incumbent legislator Charles Njagwa Kanyi and Mbugua. Jagwa had earlier on come out to dismiss claims that he had dropped his political aspirations ahead of the upcoming August polls. Now, the National Treasury's failure to disburse funds to counties on time has been attributed to low absorption rate of development budget. Late receipt of funds from the Exchequer had led to budget revisions among the devolved units, leading to further delays in spending. Within the sixth financial year beginning 2014-2015 to 2019-2020, late disbursement of funds by the Treasury has led to revision of development budgets 53 times. The Ministry of Health has unveiled a vision impact project dubbed Peak Technology, which feeds into the National Eye Health Strategic Plan 2020-2025. According to the ministry, Peak Technology is a smartphone mobile application easy to use by non-medical workers to screen school children and community members for eye disease and even link them to the very scarce eye specialist. Chief Administrative Secretary Dr. Rashid Aman pledged that the ministry will provide a conducive environment for the use of technology such as Peak and for further research for continuous improvement of health services using such initiatives and innovations. Now, approximately 4,500 Kenyan Muslims will be allowed to participate in this year's Hajj pilgrimage in Saudi Arabia. The announcement follows the Middle East nation's decision to open its borders to 1 million pilgrims who will be allowed to visit the holy city of Mecca and observe the annual pilgrimage, which is one of the 5 pillars of Islam. And sorghum farmers are banking on growing demand and contract farming, especially from brewers, to grow the land under the crop. The International Crop Research Institute for the Semi-Arid Tropics attributes the current low production of sorghum to use of traditional seeds, underscoring the need for commercialization of hybrid seeds to increase production and earnings. Just 250,000 acres of land is under sorghum, which is very low when compared to Sudan, Ethiopia, Uganda and Tanzania. This has seen Kenya import sorghum from Uganda and Tanzania to bridge the deficit. And the Mitumba Consortium Association of Kenya is calling for the establishment of sorting facilities within the country to improve the quality of second-hand clothes assessing in Kenya, as well as create an avenue for re-export to neighboring countries. MCAK chairperson Teresia Njenga says traders are often making losses due to poor quality clothes finding their way into the local market after sorting in other countries. A report dubbed Global Production Networks of the Second-Hand Clothing Industry by the Mitumba Institute and Research Center indicates that there's an increasing flow of cheap fast fashion products from Asia into Africa. And head coach Innocent Simiyu has named the Kenya men's national rugby 7 squad for this weekend's Rugby Africa Men's Sevens in Kampala, Uganda. Nelson Oyo captains the side that features former Kenya under-20 international Amon Wamalwa, who will be making his debut in Shujaa colours. Overall, Simiyu has retained 8 players from the squad that featured at the just concluded World Rugby 7 Series legs in Singapore and Vancouver, respectively, while including experienced playmaker Augustine Lugonzo, Alvin Otieno and Timothy Masi. On his part, Lionesses Rugby 7 squad head coach Dennis Mwanja also named Kenya Women's National Rugby 7 squad for the Rugby Africa Women's Sevens in Tunis, Tunisia on the 29th and 30th of this month. All the best to Shujaas and the Lionesses as they represent the country. This is News. I'm Dennis Assetto. Good morning.
All right, seeing most of the traffic going towards North Airport Road this morning and then out to Outer Ring. The Southern Bypass looking pretty good. There's an option for you to escape from Mombasa Road. I was going to say Sobibo. Okay, so then there's also some traffic on Langata Road today going out towards Uhuru Highway as well. Uhuru Highway through into the CBD out towards Westlands. That still continues really heavy. I think the Superhighway is not doing too badly today. We have some traffic then coming out into the CBD just past the Utali Drift. Kiambu Road also doing the thing. We're looking into the eastern part of Kenya, coming out of Nairobi now and then looking into Mombasa. Not too much of traffic coming into the city, and then also looking west, going out to Naivasha, Nakuru. Not too much of an issue this morning. Then out into Kisumu city in town. Everything is flowing rather smoothly. There's rain wherever you look, however, asking folks to be a lot more careful this morning. Let's take a look in about half an hour and see what it looks like. Talk to us this morning on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up,
7 minutes
not
after
down.
8, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Is
it continues into the third hour. Eric Latiff, Ndu Okoh, C.T. Muga, on a cold and wet Nairobi morning. It's raining across the country.
It is.
That's what you said.
That's what I've said.
Everywhere in the country.
More or less.
Inanyesha.
There's a little bit of sunshine in Mombasa, but that's not to last.
Yeah. We. Okay. City.
Yes?
The day's proverb.
The person who never experienced evil does not know the worth of what is good.
The what? Does what?
The what person who never experienced evil does not know the worth of what is good.
You're not all together there this morning, are you?
This is from Togo, you said?
Togo. Togo.
How many tribes are there in Togo?
Oh, there are many. There's no African country with that few tribes. There are many. There are those that you know of. There are those that you don't particularly know of. There are those that are mentioned. Depends on who did the demographics. But there are many. And why there are many is for a very simple reason. The colonial borders simply cut through very many communities. So if you're surrounded by other countries, there'll be an infusion of the very communities you find in those other countries into your own country. You only need to look at our country to see it. Just look at our borders and then look at the infusion of the communities that you have. Some on this other side of the border, some on the other side of the border, and they're related, and you're being told you're in a different country.
Indeed.
Thankfully, they understand that is nonsense, and they simply function as they did even before colonialism.
Yeah, because if if you're Lagos at Badagry and then you cross over to Lome, which is also a border, it's on the border, you find people speaking Yoruba in Badagry.
Yes.
And you find them speaking Yoruba on the other side.
Yes.
You'll also find them speaking the local Togolese dialect in certain parts of Badagry. Because, the border is invisible to them.
So you talk about your border all you like.
Yeah, that's your business.
They are going to go about their business as they see fit. Yes. So that is the reason why when somebody asks about communities, I will say, what Wikipedia tells you is that there are so many. But yes.
Okay. We'll shortly be having a conversation with a Kenya pipeline company who recently, just on the 7th of April, launched a fiber optic cable service in the country and want to understand pipeline, fuel, fiber. What's the connection? How is fiber pipeline, or how is pipeline fiber?
Why?
Is the pipeline being fed in the fiber, or is the fiber being carried in the pipeline?
Is the pipeline carrying the fiber?
Yeah. And which fiber are we talking about? Fiber optic cable. Okay. So, City, earlier you asked, I thought we have many fiber cables in Kenya. And yes, actually.
We do.
There are several. There are 6 submarine cables that have landed in Kenya. One of them is the East African Marine System, TIMS, that was launched in 2009. Other internet cables landing in Mombasa have been Easy, the one I told you, the East African Submarine Cable System, the Lower Indian Ocean Network, Lion, Seacom, the Djibouti Africa Regional Express, One Day, and now there's a new one that was again launched just this year. And this one is called the Pakistan and East Africa Connecting Europe. Peace. Some nice names. Easy, Teams, Peace, Lion, Simba. Seacom. Right? Big. Okay. So let's understand this entry into the fiber optic and connectivity business by Kenya Pipeline. Zilpa Michelle Abongo is the General Manager for Strategy and Compliance at Kenya Pipeline. Good morning, Zilpa.
Good morning, Eric.
Good to have you on Kenya's biggest conversation. That is the hot seat, as hot as the red mic that you have in front of you. But first, let's first of all understand. So, Kenya Pipeline. What is the mandate of Kenya Pipeline when it was established and as it operates today?
Absolutely important question. Thank you all for having us. We are essentially East and Central Africa's only what we call multi-product pipeline. So we transport what we call clean petroleum products, not crude oil. That will be your super, diesel, kerosene, through the pipeline to various destinations. So when the ships dock in Mombasa, they will discharge and store within the facilities there, and then enter our pipeline through Mombasa to Nairobi, Nakuru, Eldoret, and Kisumu. At specifically Nakuru, Eldoret, and Kisumu, they're what we call loading depots. So they're here, people bring their trucks, we load for them these petroleum products into the trucks, and then they go into what we call retail service stations that service your vehicles where you fuel, or they will transport these petroleum products to manufacturers or any other facility for petroleum utilization or further distribution. We service the local market as well as what you call transit market, what you colloquially call export market. So that is Uganda, Burundi, Tanzania, initially South Sudan, DRC. So we essentially are a corridor within the what we call Northern Corridor Transit Route to transport petroleum products.
Have the other countries acknowledged Kenya Pipeline as their sole conduit for this? Or do they get to some point and say, these Kenya Pipeline people, they're becoming too expensive, let's look for alternatives?
Indeed. Earlier on, before 2007, KPC, or Kenya Pipeline Company as it's called, was a monopoly. So we pretty much moved most of the product within the region. And the economies of these countries were dependent on us. Unfortunately, after the post-election violence, people started seeking alternative routes, which are fair, but they are based on road transportation. So we do have competition from trucks, being road tankers, or from rail, to a minimal extent, but Kenya Pipeline Company remains the most dominant player in the transport sector. And so for Uganda, we transport about 75% of their fuel through our system. For Rwanda, we're still doing about 10%. It used to be more, almost 100. We're working on winning them back because there's always competition, lively competition.
Moved from 100 to 10.
Imagine. That was mainly because of the situation in 2007. So it's also a call to our people that, the actions that we provoke after elections really do impact economies, and we need to remain a stable transit environment so that businesses can continue. And of course, for DRC, we do about 30%. That's for East Congo. And then for South Sudan, we do about 90% of their distribution through this corridor. So we still firmly sit as the epicenter of petroleum distribution within the region.
Let me understand this. Rwanda is landlocked.
Correct.
So where do they get their fuel from if not from us?
Currently Tanzania. So they transit through Uganda.
It's a really long route.
Indeed. Very long route. So what we are working on is rebuilding confidence, because truly petroleum transportation through pipeline is world over the most efficient, the most effective, most reliable. However, when your economy is disrupted by anything looking like it could lead to war, then countries then have a psychological shift, which is what we've been trying to break. But Rwanda remains within our pipeline system, especially for their airport distribution of jet fuel. Jet fuel is what then is into plane aircraft petroleum product. But we are working harder because we do appreciate that this could be a bigger percentage.
So Tanzania has the equivalent of Kenya Pipeline Company?
No, it does not.
So they rely on road transport and rail transport?
Correct. Mostly road, actually.
Which is less efficient than the pipeline?
Absolutely.
We goofed badly there, didn't we?
So it's actually a message to our brothers to consider their actions.
Now, so locally, your competition is road and rail.
Yes, but rail to a very minimal extent, because you were using what you call the meter gauge railway, which, as you would know, takes longer than going over the transport system. And then the connectivity into Uganda, for instance, is only localized to a place called Port Bell, because you have to then transship again, move it into a track to go into a place called Ginger. So the rail network has not been as fluid as we would say pipeline, definitely, or even road, because, with road, you take it exactly to where you want it.
Yeah. I want to ask a question out of ignorance. Petrol, fuel gets to Mombasa, pumped into storage facilities, enters the system. It then travels. How many kilometers per hour before it gets to where it's going?
1,000 meters. We usually say it travels at 1,000 cubes, or what we call 1,000,000 liters per hour, and it travels 450 kilometers from Mombasa to Nairobi, and then another continuous about 350 to Kisumu.
So around in 2 hours,
2 million.
It has done that.
Yes.
I think it's fast.
Then the second question, then actually aligned to that. So it's the same pipeline that is transporting kerosene. Super petrol.
Absolutely.
Diesel.
Absolutely.
Jet fuel.
Absolutely.
Adulteration. How do you avoid that?
In fact, some people in the region think it's magical, how we manage to do that. So by some serious physics, we're able to create enough pressure within that pipeline that they are we essentially compartmentalize those products in batches or compartments within the pipeline system. So there's a methodology that we would use. I think that's the best word to use, where, for instance, diesel and super have what we call a non-critical interface, such that even if they touch each other side by side within the pipeline, we can somehow manage by density to separate these two. Through a process.
So they do not mix?
They do not mix.
Okay.
And even that little interface, because you see it's a liquid product that touches each other, we are able to separate them and then re-inject into the diesel such that it is actually not affected in terms of composition. And then, for instance, kerosene and super cannot mix because of the chemistry.
You are aware that you've just described for us an adulteration process?
No, it's not actually. So the product that comes out of our depot facilities is certified again. So you see, when it comes into the port of Mombasa, it is inspected. You see, it was inspected at the load port, whether it's in Dubai or India or wherever. And then when it lands in Mombasa, it is re-inspected for quality against the KEB standard and against what KPC has as its own internal standard, because we know we have to manage these critical interfaces. Once it gets into the pipeline, there's a monitoring system, and actually one of these days you should visit our control rooms. It's really, really quite exciting.
When?
Now, you see, Monday.
Wow.
It will be quite exciting for you to see how it moves within that pipeline system. We monitor each product as it's going along, and we actually monitor that critical interface to avoid any kind of critical mixing. When it gets into the system, up to Eldoret, Kisumu, as it's exiting, it is again tested for quality. So you do not ever have a situation where we give you product below the Kenyan spec and below the KPC spec. And it's actually issued, for instance, to the export companies, customers, to the spec of the country that it's going to. The beauty is Kenya has a higher spec.
There's a kink that I came across sometimes back in the media. And I wasn't working in the media space, as we call it then, but I came across it. Water. Somewhere along the line, there were issues. It was actually at the Kisumu depot.
That time.
I was working in that region and I came across this. Some people went to get their fuel and instead got water. What role does
at
water...
the pump?
Yes. They filled their tanks with the vehicle with water. Now, I want to know the role of water, because water must be a key component in this process. What does water do? And what mistake occurred? Because clearly this was a mistake. Something happened that wasn't supposed to happen, and there was this problem. Kindly walk us through this.
Every morning there's supposed to be what we call a tank draining process. So at the tank bottom, at the base of the tank, there will be a process by which water, which is denser than most of the fuel products, all of them actually, will sink to the bottom, if any, because within the petroleum distillation process, there could be some molecules not even recognizable to you by eye visually. So if indeed there's any sort of entrance of this into the tank, for instance, whatever mechanism, because some have floating roofs, others have flat roofs, or within the pipeline system, which is quite unlikely, then it will sink to the bottom of the tank. And there's supposed to be a draining process every day as part of what we call our standard operating procedures that would then exit or egress the water from the facility. So in this particular situation, there was indeed a mistake. It was not done as per the procedure. And unfortunately, it was also not checked by the team that was there. So by the time it was being noted, it was unfortunately by the customer as opposed to by us, which is not what is supposed to happen. So indeed, there had to be administrative action taken, because that is absolutely unacceptable in any shape or form. And Kenya Pipeline Company did the necessary rearrangements within its organizational structure to ensure that that doesn't happen. There was appropriate sanction.
Sure. So, Zilpa, just from what you described, I mean, the intricacies of how this entire system works, making sure that, everybody gets their fuel needs around the country, it seems like you have your hands full.
Absolutely.
And so now here we are talking about fiber optic. So it seems like worlds apart. So where is this all? How does this all then now
segue into each other?
Yes.
So in 2002, there was a vision that for our own data carriage needs, because considering the sort of installations that we run, they have very many systems that control them. So, for instance, when I've told you about the control room, that's a system in itself. When we tell you about loading, that's a system in itself. They need to communicate with each other. Aside from that, we have a lot of storage needs. We have a lot of connectivity needs because we serve the whole country. We're literally at every major city in the country. We needed a fiber cable that was reliable. So this is actually not uncommon in pipeline installations or in major industry. We laid it, but then thought, why on earth would we lay fiber cable with capacity just for ourselves? How about we lay it with capacity for expansion? So as KPC grew through the years, because you would know from then, we have built other pipelines to augment the one that we had built in 1978 called Line 1, which is now being decommissioned. So these pipelines all also needed to communicate with each other. So it was agreed as a policy that for every pipeline we would lay, we would also lay fiber optic cable or cabling. When we got to about 2018, it was realized that our capacity was actually excess. Now we had a cable with 96 cores. These are like the lines that transmit data, but we do not have data within them, only for our own needs, that needed now to be commercialized, because you cannot sit on excess cabling for the entirety of the period of this company's existence. So there was a very brilliant idea off of some work we did with a consultant within the ICT space, because we were energy and not in the business of communication, where we were advised that you could actually lease off this fiber cable. And this had actually happened off of Vision 2030, where there was a push to increase internet access to everybody in Kenya to ensure that our economy can actually grow at a faster rate. So industrialization, but as well as technology. So we acquired a Tier 2 network infrastructure license.
What again?
A Tier 2 network infrastructure license.
You will explain what that is, but go on.
Okay. From the Communications Authority of Kenya, whereby there are actually different categories of licenses that you can obtain. Some people just operate as internet service providers, so that's a lower tier. Others, like Safaricom, have an even higher ranking, whereby you can lay infrastructure as well as have data carriage, bandwidth carriage, so I can provide you then in that category with internet. And they can also move across countries. So for instance, I can connect satellite network with the submarine cables that Eric was talking about into another country. That's a whole other sphere in itself. So from 2018, then we started to prospect for clients, because who are we going to sell this fiber optic cable to? Thankfully, and I really appreciate the ICT space, it is very switched on. So when they had that KPC had fiber optic cable, came in and assessed the quality of it, the stretch across the country of it. I won't go into all the technical details, but you can connect at every point in the country. they felt this is actually a very good product. So Safaricom jumped on, then Jamii Telcom jumped on, then Wananchi group, that's Zuku, jumped on, and then we just started, it started being a movement, I would call it. So the aspects of now leasing, commercializing this were seen as now commercial or marketing function, business development wise. So it then was espoused into our strategy as not just being for systems and processes, let this actually be a revenue stream. So then the marketing team started prospecting for even more clients. And then this year on April 7th, we launched it on a very large scale with CS Mosheru there, the CAK, CG, Chiloba there. And what we end up, essentially our whole company saying that whatever infrastructure is in the country, KPC has some of the best that you can get in terms of the connectivity of this line, quality-wise, as well as the reliability. So in the tech space is something called uptime. So how many times is your fiber cabling interrupted by cuts, what we call fiber cuts? Unfortunately or fortunately for us, we have that extreme advantage of our line cannot be intruded upon unless by vandals, where, it's out of our control and unplanned, of course, severe acts of terrorism, because our line is heavily manned. So by both human beings, by systems, as well as by aerial surveillance. So if there's a fiber cut, it's because we accessed the line. That's because
somebody has deliberately accessed it.
Correct. So we only access our, what we call our way leave, our right of way, when we're doing any kind of maintenance on our pipeline. So this fiber cable is laid beneath our pipeline system. So for you to access it beyond our pipeline, you're really going out of your way. And the only people who can do that are we through excavators. So when we're doing planned maintenance, we would advise our customers, this is what's happening. So likely you will not have a fiber cut, but in the event you do, we will fix it immediately. So in a whole year, in fact, the most I've heard of is 2 fiber cuts. What does that result in? 99.6% uptime. That means that if your backbone is KPC fiber, your likelihood of having internet outage is pretty much non-existent.
Statistically.
So, exactly. So we're looking at raising that uptime to 99.9, which is essentially the highest in the industry that you can acquire. And that would require that we manage our maintenance such that essentially no one can touch this line, and that's a processing experience. So that the guys, because the maintenance is handled by the mechanical team, the fiber is handled by instrumentation and control. Sometimes something can happen, or if it's unavoidable, but that is something that we're actually looking in the next financial year to cut completely. So the customers have now increased. Now we have Airtel, we have MTN, we even have other companies that I guess I should not talk about at the moment because they're in the process of onboarding, whether large telecommunications companies or internet service providers that are coming in. And then there's opportunity, you mentioned the Peace cable, to connect a submarine cable to a terrestrial one, like Kenya Pipeline Company's fiber. So the connectivity then is even more enhanced towards Eldoret and Kisumu. What then that also means is if we expand our infrastructure to Busia, we can connect directly into Uganda and eventually into Rwanda and the Congo.
So one of the submarine cables can basically move to the border with Uganda.
Yes.
So Uganda can feel like it has landed
exactly
a submarine cable in Busia.
Exactly.
Let's take a break. I know you have a question.
No, Ndu has many questions.
It's just let's just take a break. City, 760 Bob. What does it do?
There's this thing called Showmax. Shows you movies. That is if you have a TV or if you have a smartphone. In addition to movies, my friend, sports, telenovelas. That's what they're called, isn't it?
Yes.
Soap operas. The other thing, what is that thing called? Documentary. Series. Sports. 760 Kenya shillings per month.
Per month.
Yes.
There's one very good local production called Crime and Justice. Season 1, Season 2, both of them on Showmax. Very, very good productions. Just go in there, subscribe to Showmax, starting at 760 shillings a month, and you get access to all this content. We're having a conversation with Zilpa Michelle Abongo. She is the General Manager for Strategy and Compliance at Kenya Pipeline Company, getting to understand Kenya Pipeline, and now Kenya Pipeline has ventured into fiber optic cable. We want to understand that business as well. Good morning.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Brought to you by Colgate.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
Remember when Silas reminded McKenna?
There's different kinds of justice.
Prepare for the return of detective duo McKenna and Silas, fighting to protect their lives as they discover a justice system infiltrated by a mysterious cartel. So, will the law prevail? Get ready for Crime and Justice Season 2, A System Corrupted.
Watch Crime and Justice only on showmax.com.
Forgiveness is always conditional. Even before God, there's nothing like unconditional forgiveness.
Government doesn't pay you pension until you retire. In fact, they have no money for you. The day you retire, they look for it.
This country is punishing many young people. These young people are more susceptible to be deceived, to be taken advantage of, and they're more susceptible to be bought off.
Let us also talk about where we want our country to go. You know, we are a population of very young people.
We're in a state of capture. The judiciary is under duress. Parliament is in the pocket of the executive. You don't sit and wait for the regime to topple itself. It will never do so.
By the way, let me tell you, these guys are so persuasive. I'm telling you, they can persuade you to sell your grandmother. I'm telling you, they can sell sand in the desert.
Ceci, has anybody on this program said to you as a guest, saying, "Oh, shut up, we don't want to be told what to do"? Has you ever that kind of? Has anybody been
I will not listen.
bit of advice? Because you're working on the premise that we should all pay heed to these proverbs. It's a very suspect notion.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Cloudy conditions in Nairobi. Rain still coming down. Highs of 22 and lows of 15 today. Cloudy at 17 in Nakuru. 23 will be the high and lows of 16. Continues to rain in Nyeri at 16, highs of 23. We'll see highs of 21 in a mostly cloudy Eldoret this morning. It's now raining in Mombasa at 27, highs of 31. 31 will also be the high in a mostly cloudy Malindi at 28. Rains continue in Kisumu at 21. We'll see highs of 26 and lows of 19. 16 will be the low in Kakamega, where it's cloudy at 20. We'll see highs of 26. All right, in Kampala, the sun is out now at 19, highs of 25 and lows of 18. And it's sunny in Dar es Salaam as well at 26 with highs of 30. We'll see lows of 25. 12 degrees and sunny in Johannesburg. 21 will be the high and lows of 11. Mostly clear at 25 in Lagos. Highs of 32 and highs of 32 as well in a rainy Kinshasa. At 24, we'll see lows of 23. Okay, it's the principal highway, not quite decided on what's happening here. Off and on traffic. The most of it is when you get to Tally Drift and then out towards Pangani. Kiambu Road is looking a little bit better now as you get towards Muthaiga Square. Coming out of Westlands, that hasn't been too bad today. Well, you know why? It's because that section right around Chiromo, where had been closed forever, is now open. So that's why you're not having too much of that issue. All right, Uhuru Highway also getting into the city out towards Westlands. A bit of clog up here and there, but you should be all right. Coming off Langata Road is not too bad this morning. Getting to the junction at the roundabout onto City Mortuaries where you see some traffic. And Mombasa Road is doing some magic here. Getting off towards the SGR and then out towards Cabanas and then towards Mbakasi. That's where you see some traffic. Not too bad this morning. Let's keep an eye on things. Talk again about half an hour. Let us know. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Spice up your life.
25 minutes to 9, Kenya's biggest conversation. It continues. Eric Latiff, Okoh, CT Muga, Zilpa Michelle Abongo from Kenya Pipeline Company. We're talking about Kenya Pipeline's entry into commercial fiber optic cable business. Question number 7A. 1.
Wow. Okay. So Zilpa, for 20 marks. Okay, sorry. You talked about Vision 2030 and there's a Vision 2025. So are you looking at this as a contribution towards that vision or value-added service that KPC now is offering, saying, well, look, I mean, obviously there's a commercial value here for the company. But can we see a colouring within the same spaces then of contributing towards the country's vision?
Absolutely. In fact, the vision for the country preceded our own commercial interests. So Vision 2030 was domesticated into KPC's agenda through what we call Vision 2025. That's our corporate strategic plan. And within it, connectivity was key. So as I said, it evolved from being our own connectivity to grand connectivity within the country. So some state corporations were charged with actually then laying fiber infrastructure when the government realized that, under its master plan, this could actually be done through the government agencies. So alongside Konza Technopolis, which is doing extremely well now in terms of being a data center, eventually upping storage capacity, connecting with private companies, KPC offers an opportunity to connect into Konza Technopolis, where various farms now have another node to light up their fiber from. So the government, through agencies like Kenya Pipeline Company, is looking at making internet more accessible. That's across the country. And that's why they're looking at, say, for instance, Kenya Pipeline distributing from Mombasa to Eldoret and Kisumu so that everyone along that connecting point can pick up and drop off internet. 2, it is looking at making it cheaper. So when you have more players in the market, you're able to cause some level of disruption that makes the market more competitive. So with more backbone, and that's why you're seeing so many submarine cables are landing here. In any case, Kenya is an extremely vibrant testing hub for East and Central Africa for most of these large corporations. I mean, Microsoft is here, Amazon Warehouse Storage Services is here. For cloud computing, we have Google now setting up a whole innovation hub and engineering center. Facebook has been here. So with all these companies connecting into East Africa through Kenya, we essentially then are providing further gateways for this to happen on a larger scale. With that, you will definitely have more accessible and cheaper internet in your homes. That then enables you as a small and medium enterprise or as a sole proprietor to set up a business, to communicate across the world, to engage with your families. I even say that even Mama Mboga, aside from the work that is being done by telcos in terms of airtime connectivity, is now able to access data. And you see packages of 1 day, 5 minutes or whatever it is.
1 hour.
1 hour even, exactly, to watch View Sasa you mentioned, and then what's the other one? Showmax, exactly. Therefore, this is an opportunity for this economy within this segment to actually participate in the global spectrum. And I anticipate that even more creative technologies will be developed here, because you do know Kenya has been quite on the forefront of developing innovations in the world.
You talked about Tier 2, and that's then City said you'll explain it. Please explain. This Tier 2 license from the Communications Authority, what is it? How many tiers are there?
So we have the mandate to lay infrastructure only. So if you wanted to do anything more, for instance, either sell you internet or connect to another country, we would have to acquire another license. The license we would need now is Tier 1. That is the highest, most supreme. And as I mentioned, companies like Safaricom are the ones who have that sort of licensing. Beyond infrastructure, you now have connectivity in simple terms. Into homes, exactly. Okay. And beneath that, then there's the guys who can not lay infrastructure. They can only provide you internet services. So potentially because of capital constrictions, or possibly that is not their segment, they're not interested in networks. And that's okay, because in the tech space, everybody has a place to play. So you're either on the retail end, the wholesale end, the infrastructure end, or you're in all of them. And then you can essentially capture the whole market. So KPC, of course, had an entry at an infrastructure level because we are not internet service providers. Neither were we trying to access the retail market, because just like with the petroleum model, I hope you know, maybe I didn't mention this, we do not retail to you at any point. We have no interface with the end user or the common mwananchi, other than by being the conduit through which petroleum products pass.
So you're the sort of organization that come Christmas, you don't give petroleum gifts to you.
At all. In fact, we give Christmas vouchers.
Radio City was reading out for that request.
And the strangest part is, even our family think that we, can mercantile petroleum products.
Ukikuja Christmas.
Indeed.
Barrel.
Barrel. We don't even do barrels.
You don't do barrel.
No,
you
it's
do.
bulk in the pipeline.
Wow.
Barrels. Oh my goodness! Unless you're going to maybe countries like Somalia, you're not gonna get barrels. Or for like Manda Bay in Lamu, they do have barrels for the jet fuel. So just the same way, our fiber was supposed to be through. It's just we are just a
Just set
conduit.
up the infrastructure and that's it.
Exactly, and that is what is called dark fiber, DARK, meaning it is hollow. There's nothing in that cable. So anybody who leases our fiber, which is at $22 per kilometer per fiber core out of the 96, of which we've almost sold 10, at least 10 not sold, is then able to light it. When I said Konza has terminal equipment, they are able to provide frequencies through which you can distribute data within that dark fiber core to wherever it is that you intend. It's a technology in itself, and that's what is called fiber optics.
Right.
Exactly.
It's the optics part of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, with this strategy, the Kenya Pipeline Strategy 2025, and you're the boss of strategy, is there a strategy to seek the other tiers of licensing? Now that you have the infrastructure and you're seeing what's happening, can you seek, for example, the authority of the Communications Authority to get deeper into the business?
Of course, every business goes on its comparative advantages. And up to today, 40 years later, we have never touched the retail end of distribution. One, there was a company called National Corporation, and still is there, mandated to do that. Two, because when you start engaging in areas where you do not know the space, you may end up burning your fingers more than you actually assist yourself.
It's a Kenyan thing to do.
Just copying everybody.
You start a bar, you have a car wash, you have a butchery there. This is the Kenyan kinyozi. It's a Kenyan thing
I
to
think
do.
one of the reasons we've stayed so reliable as a company is because we've stuck to our lane. We know what it is that we do best. An extremely talented pool of engineers, some of the best in the country, and they know how to manage infrastructure. So for now, unless propelled by government need, of course, we're engaging a lot with the ICT, Youth Innovation and Technology Ministry, as well as with Communications Authority. Where the government would need us to go further, we will. Because, as you know, we are a commercial entity, commercial state corporation, meaning we generate our own income. We may have more latitude to do such than for instance, another parastatal that's fully funded by the National Treasury. However, right now, it is not within our interest because there's already so many players handling that business. Our interest is to ensure that there's access. When there's access, these players then indeed will reduce the cost of internet relayance to you.
Is it possible for there to be a saturation of access?
Not yet, not in technology. The way we see it, and then with 5G technology coming up, literally we do not have enough capacity. So by the way, KPC with the 96 core, we always say we can light up all of Kenya with just those 96 cores. But someone needs to.
Your language.
But someone needs to do that.
And then I said they can light
Imagine.
up Kenya.
So a company would need to then take up all those cores of various companies to light up the whole environment, the whole economy. Those 96 cores are essentially enough for the country's needs. However, it's subject to there's duplicity because you do know there are other fiber cables available.
Right.
Are they reliable? Are they good quality? How long is their lifespan? Because a fiber optic cable has a couple of decades to it. So after which they start.
This one of yours, how many decades does it have?
It's actually very new. So it's we're talking about 40 years, 50 years going into the future. It can light up the whole nation. So with partners, we're looking at a partner model as opposed to us doing that. Really, even if we have some capital, some little change, we do not have that sort of capacity. That's a whole sector.
So then where is the propensity for suggestion here? Because just stay with me a little bit. Because you've said that your mandate is to provide, right? So you're providing the access and an environment where these things can happen. And you say, look, we're going to stick to our mandates and, just stay here. So where then are you able to make suggestions? Because you've already plugged into this vision. Or you are already plugged into the vision for the country.
Absolutely.
Right? And there are very many things then that are part of this vision. And I remember a time not too long ago, 2 short years ago, when the world was shut down because of COVID. One of the things that suffered the most was education. Children were not able to go to school. And one of the things that we saw was that, look, if every community, at least your community center, your town baraza here, there, had access to the internet, connectivity, then perhaps we would see children still being able to learn even if they could not congregate in schools. So then, how do you see a company being able to make a suggestion to national government and say, look, we already have this access. How can we make things a little bit easier since we have it already?
And since we are government anyway.
And we are part of you anyway. Can't we see suggestions being made along the lines to then have everybody plug into this vision?
This CSR component.
Indeed. So the reason why we're also partnering with Konza Technopolis is because for you to even have that sort of capability, you do need to have these terminal points where these cables are like dropped so that they can connect into the wider system. Now, Konza, as you do know, is government agenda, very key in terms of lighting up our city and making it like South Korea or Dubai. And before you can do that, you cannot go into the market and start saying that we have this capability. So in these connections that we're making with Konza, with the big telcos already in that space, I'm certain that 2 years down the line, 3 years down the line, because fiber is quite a fast-moving business, we will then see where are the gaps. And if those gaps continue to persist in a scale that is too large for enterprise, private enterprise to continue with, I'm sure there will be policy interventions that say, you know what, government, because as you do know, even like for Peace Cable, Telkom, which is partly government owned, is involved in that. Various, Kenya Power, there's Ketraco, they also have fiber cable connectivity. So it's just a question of confluence, time, opportunity. If the private sector is only able to reach a certain point, then by all means, government will need to intervene. Because at the end of the day, when you want to have access everywhere, for instance, in Samburu, can all the private entities do that on their own, or they will need help? So, for instance, we have a line that can, we have a drop-off point or pick-off point that can happen into locations as far off as those. So, all I'm saying is, for now, we're sticking to building our capability within which we are most competent. Beyond that, it will then need to be a space of what are the gaps identified. Because also, if you just rush into things, creating duplicity.
You're learning as you go.
Yes.
Are we going into a break, or can I ask a question?
Ask a question.
Okay.
2.
You have access. I'm going to call it capacity. You're already offloading and trading and doing business with Safaricom, Airtel, Telcom,
1G,
Zuku, etc. These people have reached throughout the country in places that I don't even know of, simply because there are phones and connectivity everywhere. I suspect these people pay you for what you give them, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, now.
$22
per kilometer.
per kilometer
square. Yes. Now, your CSR doesn't require you to do what the telcos do. But the telcos have the capacity to influence that connectivity to the very local establishment or to the furthest corner of this country. Now, is it then not possible, even as you make these arrangements, you say, okay, you've connected, Safaricom, you've got 23 kilometers of this thing of ours. This 3 kilometers, let's tell you what we want you to do with it. You, as Airtel, the other guys, and this is what we want you to do with it. Not you. You simply say, instead of paying us, is it possible for this to be part of our CSR so that you can provide what is needed in this and this and this place? Because that really isn't your work. But they can do it. Is it possible to have discussions around partnering with these people to do what they can do and what they do on a daily basis anyway and charge a premium? So that the very thing that Ndu was referring to, where in the event, God forbid, of a situation where we have a COVID moment again, life doesn't come to a halt.
That is taken. We had not thought of as far as that possibility, but that is taken, because indeed there are possibilities for further collaboration.
Other ideas.
Yes.
Let's come back into the general Kenya Pipeline conversation.
Mm-hmm.
People are asking questions. So one is, and City has asked this question of the Director General of IPRA, has asked this question of various other people.
The former chairman of KPC.
Of, Kipevu, refinery, and the capacity. Is there a business case for Kenya rebuilding a refinery and it making sense for Kenya Pipeline as a business and a revenue stream?
As you know, that very innovative LAPSET project envisions a refinery in Lamu as an alternative to Mombasa because of any potential disruption, but also to open up a corridor that we are not actively participating in, and that, you know, is North, the Horn of Africa. So, as you know, the Port of Lamu has actually already been commissioned for the first initial berths. The one for oil tankers, not yet. It's the refinery construction is also pending. And then there's also the pipeline that's supposed to connect us through to Ethiopia. It is possible, based on demand, that a refinery will be built. It is in the master plan. The only question is when. So for now, considering the dynamism around petroleum products importation, pricing, we do not have plan to resuscitate that refinery. So as you do know, we're in the process of acquiring the Kenya Petroleum Refineries with the assets that it has for further expansion.
That is Kenya Pipeline.
Correct. Into capabilities like liquefied petroleum gas, because they have quite a vast amount of storage that is also within the same mind space of creating access, reducing cost. Because we've talked so much about kerosene. We've talked so much about biomass, that's being wood energy from forests and whatnot. It is time to incentivize and create opportunity for us to use liquefied petroleum gas for cooking, for lighting, potentially even for manufacturing. So KPRL, that's Kenya Petroleum Refineries, is envisioned very firmly within Kenya Pipeline Company's growth agenda. It is an imperative for us. That means no refining capability on that front. But there are prospects of looking into biorefining for bioethanol blending, as we do that as well in places like Kisumu. In Lamu is where we can envision our refinery coming up based on need. But for now, whatever comes through the port of Mombasa is so far sufficient, especially with Kipevu Oil Terminal 2 that's coming up on offshore, that is going to enable bigger ships, faster displacement, essentially discharge into the what we call short tanks. These are what are at the beach station, that's Mombasa, into the hinterland that is all the way upwards to Nairobi and Western Kenya. So with this infrastructure in place, why would you build a refinery only to run up high costs and not return any sort of margin on your investment? As you do know, most refineries in the world are shutting down. And even the market that we traditionally serve is so far content. And to make it even more complex or better for everybody, we built a jetty in Kisumu. So there's waterway transportation. So you come into the pipeline, you either load by truck or load onto a barge into Uganda, potentially into Rwanda and the DRC. So far the economics around refining are so much cheaper than the importation are so much cheaper than the economics around refining. And there are other plans with that refinery.
KOT2. Due to be launched soon. It was commissioned, and we remember the president and a Chinese foreign minister at that site. So the other question that was also floated, so we have now a capacity to offload a number of ships at the same time. Does Kenya Pipeline have the capacity to store and move all that new volume?
Absolutely.
Or do you need to expand capacity?
So, in fact, in Mombasa, there's quite ample capacity. So, there's the old petroleum.
What is the capacity?
At Kosif, Kipevu Oil Storage Facility. I'm sorry, in oil we tend to use so many acronyms.
Every discipline has the acronyms.
Indeed.
Yes.
At Kipevu we have about 326,000 meter cube. That would be about 326,000 million liters.
How long would that last in our market?
So we have storage capability for 15 to 21 days, untouched. Then we have an additional 240 at what we call potteries. This is just off the shore with Kipevu. These were acquired from Kenya Petroleum Refineries Limited. And then we have what we have in a place called Changamwe. Traditionally, where the refinery sat, it's about another 230 odd thousand that was used for crude oil. So those are in the process of conversion. So once all this is done, we will have storage in 3 places within Mombasa, and then there's also private terminals that used to operate within Shimanzi.
So, theoretically, in maximum working capacity, how many days stretch would that afford us?
Definitely taking us to 30. So with the pipeline moving, so assuming in working days where you're assuming the pipeline is operating.
I thought it worked every day.
It works every day. I thought you meant like just sitting still. This product is able to last close to 30 days if we have the additional storage. Without the additional storage, we're working with a turnaround time of 15 days. But the beauty is every other day there's a vessel discharging. So our import cycle works that at any given time you have about 4 to 5 ships waiting to discharge.
But then with the expansion of Kipevu, it isn't just one. It's supposed to be 3 to 4 terminals, which means instead of one ship docking, you'll have 3.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Doing it simultaneously.
Yes, exactly.
With dedicated lines and going into the storage terminals. Yes. So what will happen is you'll have some moving into the hinterland, going upwards into Nairobi and Western Kenya.
Pumped up.
Exactly. Others being pumped straight to the terminals in Mombasa. And then others will sit in the tanks for either the people who do not want to lift it at the moment or for strategic importance or strategic reserves.
Hey, asante. Zilpa Michelle Abongo is a General Manager of Strategy and Compliance at the Kenya Pipeline Company. We've been talking about Kenya Pipeline, its strategy going forward, Vision 2025, and what they want to see happening in their business. Plus, they just launched the fiber optic cable business, line of business, and she's been explaining to us all about it. Zilpa, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you so
come
much,
again
team.
soon.
Indeed.
And yes, we are taking you up on that invitation to come and see the operations of Kenya Pipeline. We'll start from boarding. She will board and come to kuja na meli. Tufike Kipevu, tukue discharged, tuingie kwa pipeline.
It is important to experience the entire pipeline.
Tuingie kwa
pun intended. Yes.
Tufike Mombasa, tuwekwe kwa meli, twende Uganda.
And then walk into a tank and see what a tank is like.
Yes.
And then you see how these molecules do not touch each
Yes.
other.
That's the one I want to see.
I keep telling you, everyone says you guys are magicians, but it's quite some beautiful technology.
Thank you very much for
Thank
joining
you
us.
very much,
We also
team.
want to thank our audience on KTN Home who've been with us since the top of the hour. The conversations continue on SpiceFM around the country and also on YouTube. SpiceFM KE is our YouTube channel and our Facebook page is SpiceFM KE. Throw us a comment, a complaint, or whatever on SpiceFM KE on Twitter or Instagram as well. Reminding you, if you go into Naivas today, buy a tube of Colgate, 10 bob out of that will actually go into helping children get access to water by sinking 30 water wells in 7 counties by the end of this calendar year. Keep it here for more conversations. Good morning. It's 9 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning. This is Newswire with Dennis Aseto. Central Organization of Trade Union Secretary General Francis Atoli has criticized the national government for laxity in addressing the plight of Kenyans in Gulf countries. Atoli hit out at the Ministries of Labour and Foreign Affairs for failing to solve the menace that has now led to countless deaths of Kenyans, especially girls, shipped to Arabian countries in search of greener pastures. Speaking during a meeting with Kotu stakeholders in Nairobi, Atoli accused the government of overlooking the rights of its citizens in foreign countries, despite continuous pleas from families who have lost their loved ones in mysterious circumstances. Now, the government, through the Directorate of Occupational Safety and Health Services, is conducting a 3-day medical camp for workers ahead of the World Day for Safety and Health at Work celebration scheduled for April 28th. The camp, which will be held in Nyeri, is targeting employees from both the public and private sectors from the central region that comprises Kiambu, Murang'a, Kirinyaga, Nyeri and Nyandarua counties. Moses Muthe, an assistant director in the Ministry of Labour, says they hope to attend to as many people as possible within the remaining time, despite a slow start to the registration exercise. A charitable children institution in Kakamega has fully adopted the family care model, where children are taken care of at home as opposed to being housed in an orphan care center. Registered as Kakamega Orphan Care Center, the CCI will now be known as United Kenya Rising after finalizing all the required legal processes. The administrator of the facility, Nelson Ida Litzer, said they adopted the family model in 2018 and released all children to their homes and guardians in support of the alternative family care system being fronted by the government of Kenya. The model, he said, focuses on improving homes to be conducive and attractive to children. Litzer says the idea was also lauded by officers from the National Council of Children's Services who visited the center during inspections of CCIs. Now, after having to grapple with depreciating coffee returns for many years, coffee farmers from central Kenya have every reason to smile. This comes after years of neglect, poor returns, political interference and lack of legislative framework that characterize the coffee sector in the country. But as it appears now, coffee farmers are likely to reap big from their fortunes. Most coffee societies have already announced that they will pay their farmers more than 100 shillings per kilogram. Coffee farmers in Nyeri County are expecting a windfall in payment for their 2020-2021 season supply. Gashada Coffee Factory is leading with a payment of 120 shillings per kilogram, followed by Thiriku Coffee Factory with a disbursement of 110 shillings per kilogram. Others paying over 100 shillings are Kiandu and Gikandu, which paid their farmers 103 shillings last year. Even as coffee farmers expect a boom from last year's planting season, they say it has got nothing to do with the coffee reforms introduced by the government. To them, it is the hard work by the farmers that has raised the price of coffee to the international market. And the Commonwealth Secretariat has shortlisted 8 Kenyan entries for the 6th 2022 Commonwealth Education Awards due to their positive impact on student, teachers and education systems across the Commonwealth. In a statement, the Secretariat announced that 6 finalists out of the 20 shortlisted entries will be announced at a virtual ceremony on April 28th on the margins of the 21st Conference of Commonwealth Education Ministers that will be held in Nairobi. The entries feature a wide range of inspirational educators and innovative projects ranging from those that aim to promote literacy among women and tackle youth unemployment to those that empower teachers and academics and promote peace education. And at least 16 people were killed in bomb blast in 2 Afghan cities, attacks claimed by the Islamic State group. Since Taliban fighters seized control of Afghanistan last year after ousting the US-backed government, the number of bombings has fallen, but the jihadist and Sunni has continued with attacks often against Shia targets. Earlier this week, at least 6 people were killed in twin blasts that hit a boys' school in a Shia neighborhood of Kabul. Yesterday, 12 worshippers were killed in a blast at a Shia mosque in the northern city of Mazar-e Sharif. Saeed Ahmed Zia-Zandai, spokesperson of the Provincial Public Health Department in Bagsad. He added that 58 people were wounded, including 32 in serious conditions. And President Joe Biden has said the U.S. will send an additional $800 million in military assistance to Ukraine as Russia's war enters what he called a critical window. Biden announced the new shipments of aid, which includes heavy artillery and ammunition, in a speech from the White House meant to update Americans on the state of the conflict, which is nearing its second month and entering what U.S. officials have said could be a bloody phase. Biden said Russia has refocused its campaigns to seize new territory in eastern Ukraine, making the flow of Western military aid essential. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
Okay, a few minutes after 9 o'clock, and we're still looking at quite some traffic in many parts of the city. We're focusing on Nairobi. Mombasa Road still continues inbound traffic. And also looking at that spillover to North Airport Road out towards Outer Ring. Southern Bypass not looking too bad. There's an option for you to use this morning. We're also looking at Uhuru Highway traffic going out towards the city. Jogo Road still continues with that drama. Lunga Lunga is doing the thing in and outbound traffic and connecting somehow with the Lakoni interchange. What else are we looking at? On the Thika Superhighway, it was getting better, but then now we're looking at additional traffic going further beyond the Utali Drift. Uhuru Highway still continues to be a thing out towards the city and then through to Westlands. How about we take a look in half an hour and see how that has changed? Let's talk. SpiceFM, KE on Twitter, text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down.
It's 7 minutes
this
after 9.
Is the Situation
Kenya's
Room,
biggest
the
conversation
only
on the
way to start your day.
Of that month, the month before April, the month before the end of the first quarter, when we should be getting all manner of reprieve, Sindio, everywhere. But it has not happened. And we're waiting for the president to basically come out and tell us, fellow Kenyans, as I promised you, this is going to happen.
And I have launched April.
However, if we are to go by the headline of the Business Daily today, Kenya delays talks on 15% cut in power bills. Private producers say they are yet to receive the state invitations for talks on cutting electricity fees. Sisi hatujaitwa. Sisi
tunangoja
tuambiwe wanatakaje.
You know, every time I listen to this power conversation, the thing that puzzles me is, what are we listening to really? And in this entire conversation, what is the honest conversation? Can we actually get this cut?
The road.
Yeah.
I mean,
can we achieve a 15%?
Is it possible?
And for how long?
Yes. Then if we can, then what are the known modalities? And if there are known ones, can we explore them and determine whether we can actually get to this particular promised land? Because this back and forth of increase, you know, you're never really sure what has been decreased, because at some point something else is increased. So you're not sure whether you're actually where you started off, yet there's a conversation.
You don't know where you are. You are somewhere.
No, you're there. Then there's a conversation of reduced by 15%. But in the meantime, there's also been this tariff that was included. This has been added. So where is the increase and where's the deduction? That's why I said I am often stopped and completely confused about what progress there is and what it is we're actually discussing. Yes.
We shall wait. We shall wait. Until then, we are not moving. We are not crossing River Jordan into Canaan. We are waiting.
In fact, forget Jordan, as we're at the Red Sea.
Part it all you want.
Yes, as we're on this side.
We are not moving.
In fact, part it and part it, we are still on this
side. We are going back to Egypt. At least there were
in
pumpkins.
Egypt, there was milk and honey.
And there were pumpkins.
Yes, and also there were rhubarbs.
And meat.
Yes.
Allah. Because you're taking us, we don't know where we are going. We don't know what we're going to get.
Are you eating some flying birds every single day?
No. Your story, sisi hapana. City, the day is proverb.
Indeed. The person who never experienced evil does not know the worth of what is good.
The person who
has never experienced evil does not know the worth of what is good. So, when you consider worth, when you consider good, when you consider evil, this particular proverb has introduced two very diametrically opposed values in the same proverb. Good and evil.
Good and evil.
Yes. To know good, really very good.
You must know evil.
You
must know evil.
Or experience it. Know it by experience.
To know warmth, you must know cold.
It helps tremendously.
To know love, you must know hate.
It helps even more.
To know peace, you must know war.
So you must start by hating, so then you
must have
appreciate love.
Have knowledge.
Or vice versa. You see, this thing
works.
Hate. It works in the language that Ndu knows, and you sometimes you try to know, and I don't know. It's a comme si comme ça situation.
Come see.
And come sa.
Okay. So we're going to have a conversation about Google and what Google are doing across Africa. Just the other day, the Google CEO for Google and Alphabet, the holding company, took to Twitter and excited many people. Sundar Pichai, as the boss, Okoh, he said he's excited to open our first product development center in Africa later this year. We're hiring engineers, product managers, UX designers, researchers in Nairobi who want to build helpful products and services for people in Africa and around the world. Okay? Global Giant is coming here, and they had released a press statement a day earlier on the 19th of April. We're hiring for our first product development centers in Africa. Can I just read like the first two paragraphs
so we can just all understand? Read even three paragraphs that we understand exactly what you're saying.
What Google is looking for. They may call themselves, whatever do they call themselves? Google.
And while you are at it, please tell us about the password also.
They are Google. And a password. Are you an aspiring engineering manager, product manager, software engineer, developer relations engineer, senior UX designer, or UX researcher? Do you want to help us to create transformative products and services for people in Africa and around the world? Then apply for one of the numerous open roles at our new product development center in Nairobi. To help realize Google's mission, we'll be hiring visionary engineers, product managers, UX designers and researchers to lay the foundation for significant growth in the coming years. They're looking for talented, creative and collaborative people who can help solve difficult and important technical challenges such as improving the smartphone experience for people in Africa or building products that will help everyone to thrive together. Alongside this great technical knowledge and a passion for solving hard problems, together with others, you'll need to understand how people across the continent use their phones every day and the challenges that they face. How might searching for information and accessing entertainment be different in a context where internet connectivity can be challenging and devices and data plans can be expensive? Perhaps you have great ideas for how we can serve relevant and useful information to users just when they need it most, or do you have a vision for how to reimagine the entire online experience so it's better, easier, and more individually useful, particularly for first-time smartphone users? Then we want to hear from you. So they say, apply for jobs. Very many jobs. And this one is not a rumor that has all been circulated by, no. This is coming from Google itself.
The
guys themselves out there, and they're saying this is what we want to do. Sundar Pichai, the CEO, tweeted this and also confirmed it, and we want to have a conversation with Agnes Gadhaya, who is a Google country director for East Africa, to get to know, okay, so what are all these things? They're looking for engineer, UX engineer. The people who are being looked for, they know. They're the ones who are being looked for.
They know.
But maybe you have a cousin
brother.
Or a cousin brother.
Or a cousin sister.
And your cousin brother is a very good roads engineer. Can they do UX?
Ama ni fundi ya magari mabovu.
Ama ni engineer ingine type thing.
Yes.
Agnes Gadhaya is with us now, joining on video link. Good morning, Agnes.
Good morning, everybody. So happy to be back here.
No,
Agnes,
we're not happy
I'm
that
sorry.
you're back.
Can I just even start from the beginning?
Sorry. You
Agnes, last time, good morning, first of all, Agnes. If I may just jump on this thing. Last time we spoke, which was a very good conversation, you promised to us and to all the millions of Kenyans
who listen
in Kenya and worldwide that you would be here with us in the studio. What happened?
And we even allowed you to carry that very delightful picture you have in the background with you when you come to the studio.
I don't understand.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I'm not in the studio. Unfortunately, I've had meetings back to back 6 a.m. online, and I was unable to then jump in the car and drive there and be there on time.
We have
So please accept
we
my
have
apology.
expressway.
For some. I'm still waiting for my invite to use the expressway, like all other Kenyans.
Okay, do not worry. Next one, the expressway will be open. We had a Kenya pipeline manager here. They'll even do a pipeline for you, so you can use. You can choose. Enter the pipe or enter
and be transported. As we say in Kenya, faster, faster.
Good to have you on the show, though, Agnes, and thank you very much for joining us. Big announcement that's coming from Google this week.
That's massive. We're so excited about it. We've been here a number of times, and we've talked incrementally about all the different things that we have been doing in Africa and indeed in Kenya. And this is just the next step of Google's partnership with Africa and Kenya, and we're very excited about it.
Tell us about it. What is this? So, Product Development Center. What is that?
So this is going to be the first product development center in Africa. We have what's called an artificial intelligence research center in Ghana. And what the product development center is going to be mandated to do is to look at all our different products across Google and make them more helpful and intuitive for the African user. And by that, what I mean is that your user experience when you're in the US or when you're in Japan or when you're in Brazil or in other countries may be slightly different on our platform because of many different issues, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's the type of phone you're using, or the cost of bandwidth, the type of bandwidth we have on the ground. So our product needs to speak to our specific environment across Africa. And the best way to do that is to actually get people who use this product on a day-to-day basis, people who understand our specific challenges, and there may not be challenges, maybe they're opportunities here in Africa, to then take those products and make them more helpful for the African user.
Okay, so Agnes, if we're looking at now how this will play, I mean, I hear you saying that making the products more, useful. Could you give us examples of exactly how this would work? Somebody working in whatever sphere, whether it's a student, whether it's somebody who's running their own business, how would this then translate to now when we're looking at tangibility? How exactly would these then be able to work out? Give us some examples.
I'll give you an example. A few weeks ago, I had the real honor of speaking with different user groups. In Africa, we have many smartphones. I mean, we have many phones, but the population of people with smartphones is not that high. So the first thing is, how do we ensure we get as many smartphones into African users' hands? The challenge there has always been the cost. So how do we work, and how do our engineers work with the people who then develop these phones to make sure they make amazing phones that are accessible to most of the people? So that's the first thing. The second thing is, once you get your smartphone, most of the people we have found have a 1 GB phone, have a 2 GB phone. For a lot of products, global products, some of those phones, the platforms tend to be a little bit heavy. in terms of how much data they use, in terms of whether the phone is able to run multiple apps at the same time. So what the engineers here will be tasked with doing is, can we create a similar experience as somebody sitting in the US, in Japan, in Brazil, for the African user? It's a difficult challenge, but we're looking for talented, very creative people who can solve difficult and important challenges.
You know, when you use the word challenge, I think it's very appropriate, because if I am to look at the data that I've been acquainting myself with, smartphone penetration in this country is approximately just 26%, if my figures are right. And yet, if you look at even the business transactions that are online, it's just slightly below 10%. Now, what I'm saying is you have your work cut out for you. But on the positive side, it means there's an entire market that is basically untapped, waiting for someone to creatively tap into it.
If you think about it, in the whole of Africa, we have about 1.4 billion people.
Yes.
Currently in Africa. Majority of them are young youth. Only 300 million use the internet.
Yes.
And anybody who has access to the internet can tell you how transformative it's their life, everything then becomes. From, somebody who's farming, a smallholder farmer somewhere, the minute they get a smartphone, they then get access to information that then can transform how they farm, their inputs, their markets, etc. Many of us, we are told today, please come to my house, drop a pin. And we get there. But there are lots of people who don't have access to that amazing experience and information. And as I said here before, our mission at Google is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. Universally here means everybody, everywhere, including every single African.
So
that is why. So that's why it's so important for us to look to ensure we have and we are able to grow the number of internet users across Africa.
How do you see the new center operating, Agnes? Is it from a point of the developers who will now be hired and will be based in Nairobi, starting with looking at how to localize the existing products that have been developed by Google? Or is their mandate and their brief going to be, whatever is working, it's there. Now think of completely new stuff. Don't come and give me an iteration of what already exists.
So it's going to be twofold. And one of the things we need to make very clear is they're going to be building for Africa and beyond. Because some of the challenges we see here in Africa are actually replicated in other parts of the world. So their mandate will be twofold. The first thing will be, can we ensure that the user experience, the African user experience for existing solutions is seamless and delightful? The second thing is, are there things that can solve for our challenges that Google should be looking at building? Now, when we build, we always build with a billion users in mind. There are over a billion in Africa, and a lot of our challenges, as I said, are replicated in some other parts of the world. So it would make me extremely proud if we're able to build here solutions that then Google adopts for the rest of the world.
Okay, so now with this rollout that's happening in Kenya, is this now, because you talk about rolling out something new for 1.4 billion, over a billion users across the continent. So I mean, obviously we know what's happening here because I mean it's a local agreement. Do you have the same thing then replicated across your markets on the continent to say, this is being pulled in this way?
So indeed, the center is based in Nairobi. But we are building for the whole continent. And therefore, even when we are hiring, if there are excellent engineers seated somewhere else in the continent who would like to apply, we would very much welcome them. What we have is, part of this team is researchers. Those researchers' mandate is to actually go out and test and see these things that we are identifying that we can solve for. If we fix this, does it fix for majority of the people in Africa? So that we also ensure, even though the site is best here, it serves the whole of Africa.
You know, I don't know whether this is an appropriate question, but is it possible for you to perhaps just give us a preview into what it is that Google hopes to do to capture this untapped market that I spoke of earlier? I mean, we've seen things that you've set in motion. The last time you're in the show, there are these wonderful programs that you had in place. We haven't come back to discuss the outcome as it currently is now. Maybe you could mention that, but other plans that you have in place, because as you say correctly, the sort of infusion and the sort of investment that Google wants to put in this country, Google doesn't go around doing things because somebody wakes up in the morning and decides that this is a good thing to do. They've done due diligence and they've understood what needs to be done. A big preview, please.
Indeed. I think as I was going through different tweets and different things on social media when this announcement was made, there were a lot of people who are saying, we're so happy Google is coming to Kenya. One of the things we need to realize is that Google has had offices here for the last 15 years. Indeed, Google has had offices across Africa for the last 15 years. The first one was in Egypt. Exactly 1 month after that opened Nairobi. Nairobi was open. And then we have South Africa and we have Lagos. So for the last 15 years, we've been partnering with Africa. We've been partnering with our local communities in country to help build an ecosystem that is digital. So indeed, the last time I was here, I spoke about Sunga's last announcement. And it's such a privilege that our CEO has taken such an amazing, he's so invested in Africa. So late last year in October, he made a commitment of $1 billion to Africa over the next 5 years. That commitment was a rolling, it was another commitment, the next one. So we've been here for very many years, and we've worked in the ecosystem quite actively, especially the digital ecosystem. And we've worked on a number of different things. Actually, just yesterday, we landed what is called the Equiano undersea cable. The Equiano undersea cable is supposed to solve for access. Remember earlier on I said some of the challenges we are facing here are even as basic as accessing. Do we have good internet, reliable internet? So we have a cable that runs from Cape Town. It has West Africa, lands in Lisbon, and into London. And this is the largest undersea cable in Africa in terms of capacity. So yesterday it landed in our third country, Nigeria, and that is going to solve for infrastructure type challenges and open those countries up to good, secure internet access, similar to what we enjoy here in Kenya. Yeah? And then when we look at access again, the question is, how many Africans, once we have the infrastructure there put in, how many Africans are then therefore using that internet? For Africa, we are mobile first. For a lot of other countries, they access the internet through laptops, computers, etc. Africa has always been mobile first. And so we focus as Google on developing solutions that are mobile first. And that is why the next access challenge then becomes, can we get affordable smartphones into as many people's hands as possible? And last year, we actually launched Safaricom Lipa Mdogo Mdogo. That then allowed people, once we have gotten the price as low as we can, then can we get people to pay a little by a little? And that's the access part. Then we looked at the ecosystem. And in the ecosystem, we have actually been training developers in Africa for the last 6 years. Today, Africa has over 700,000 developers, and at least 1 in 2 has been either part of a Google university or community group or has had training by Google under our certification programs for both cloud and Android. And that's 1 in 2. So we have invested significantly in training developers. Indeed, recently, it was actually in the news, and thanks for carrying the piece, we actually launched a pilot with CS Makoha at KMTIC, KMTTC, a pilot on how do we include developer training in the TVET curriculum. And we'll be really happy to come back and discuss results on the current pilot that we're running. And that takes care of the developers themselves. Then we have been working with the startups. How do we build the capacity of startups to build, robust solutions themselves? African solutions for African problems. And we have been, we've had the Google for Startup Accelerator Program, and we've had the Launchpad Accelerator Africa Program. Both of these programs have been running the latter since 2017. And we have graduated many startups that have gone on to do amazing things. I think our first cohort had Sugar Foods, for example, that many years ago. And there are many other organizations. Then we've looked at things like, when we look at venture capital coming into Africa, it's amazing. The numbers are fantastic. They're growing in leaps and bounds. I think last year we were able to land $4.2 billion in Africa. So far this year, and we've just crossed our first quarter, we have been able to land about $1.5 billion. But a lot of that has not been going to African founders. So we came up with a fund, and we deployed $3 million and took in our first cohort of African or Black founders for 6 months and ran them through an amazing mentorship program. So we just graduated that group on March 31st. And in just that 6 months, they had increased recurrent revenue by about $1.5 million. They had hired over 230 people, 53% of them being women, in a space where there are rarely women. And they had actually raised quite a considerable amount of VC capital. So Google has spent time helping build the ecosystem, the bedrock, the foundation on which digital economies will then be deployed across Africa.
Okay.
So the next step is having trained all these people, where are they going to work? So here we are. We have this product center, development center, and we are so looking forward to getting amazing applications.
Good. It sounds like, this has been part of a long-term plan. And even what you're discussing now with the new announcement this week, it's still part of a long-term plan. We still, I think, would like to interrogate some of the work that you've done so far and seeing the benefits and seeing, like you're saying, various programs targeting the various target groups, how they have impacted the entire community and the entire ecosystem. And that's why we want to extend another invitation to you. This time, you will come. We'll send a vehicle to come and pick you. So that you come and sit with us in the studio. We have this conversation. But Agnes, thank you very much. Always a pleasure having these conversations with you.
Thank you so much. And we look forward to receiving all those amazing applications.
Thank you, Agnes.
This is going to transform Africa.
Indeed, it really must be a big thing. Agnes Gadaya is the Google Country Director for East Africa. We've been talking about what the Google has recently announced, the Product Development Center being set up in Nairobi, first in Africa, looking for applications for various positions. Just go to Google and find the information right there. Kenya's biggest conversation takes this quick break at 25 minutes to 10. We will take a look at the traffic and the weather, and then we continue the conversations. Good morning.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Brought to you by Colgate.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
This Ramadan period, enjoy the greatest and best discounts from Quickmart Supermarket. Access variety of goods under one roof at Quickmart Supermarket this Ramadan. Get 50% discount on selected items and purchase selected items at 50 bob only at all Quickmart branches. We have 50 golds and shopping vouchers worth 5,000 Kenya shillings for our daily and weekly winners across all our branches countrywide. Simply shop with 1,500 Kenya shillings and above at any Quickmart branch and you can be a winner. Quickmart, fresh and easy. This promotion is certified by Betting Control and Licensing Board, BCLB number 002729.
I hope you don't believe that Hustler is a poor person. Hustler is a person who is making his a living through hard work. The group of leaders we are having now, Kenyans, listen, the chemical composition is the same. You will mold them to ODM, then NASA, you mold them to Kano, mold them to Jubilee, mold them to any other different color sometimes, but the chemical composition is the same.
It's not about me as Nurdin Hajj, but it's about the constitution that I swore to protect. So when individuals attempt to hoard those powers and they want to be investigators and also prosecutors, then of course I have to defend that position because that position is in the constitution and that's what Kenyans wanted.
I'll tell you what happens is that when you ignore court orders, you're creating and quoting anarchy. Then you create a very dangerous precedent.
A story is told of the first president of the country who also went to visit Madare, presidential tour.
All right, so we're looking at how the conditions still in Nairobi. Rain still coming down in some parts. We'll go to highs of 22 and lows of 15 today. Cloudy at 19 in Nakuru, highs of 23 and lows of 16. It's raining in Nyeri, still at 17, highs of 23 and lows of 15. At 17 degrees, it's mostly cloudy in Eldoret, highs of 21 and lows of 14. Okay, Mombasa still continues with rain. After that, sunshine, 28, highs of 31 and lows of 24. It's also mostly cloudy in Malindi. At this point, we'll see highs of 31 and lows of 25. Mostly cloudy conditions now in Kisumu, highs of 26. We'll see highs of 25 in a cloudy Kakamega. Continues to rain in Kampala at 21, highs of 25, and it's now raining in Dar es Salaam as well. We'll see highs of 30 and lows of 25. There's now haze over the city of Lagos at 25, highs of 32 and lows of 25. And we're looking at sunny conditions in Joburg, going to highs of 21. It's raining in Kinshasa at 25. 32 will be the high and lows of 23. Friday evening reads sunny in Beijing, highs of 23. And we'll see sunny conditions in Paris this morning, highs of 20 and lows of 8 through Friday. 10 degrees and sunny in London, highs of 16 and lows of 10. And coming into Friday, the Big Apple will be clear at 12. We'll see highs of 20 and lows of 8.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice
Not
FM.
quite what's happening on Mombasa Road as you're getting then towards the ICD, or rather actually towards Cabanas. It's floating off towards North Airport Road. That's really slow right now. Looking at outbound traffic around Imara Daima, that's slowing down as you get towards that bridge. Jogoo Road still continues with traffic this morning, quite heavy. And then getting into the city, CBD is where you'll find most of the action this morning. But we're getting out of traffic. Our Thika Superhighway looks really good. Coming off Kiambu Road, that traffic is dissipated for now. So we should be all right. Let's keep an eye on things during the morning. Talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Business news on SpiceFM.
I'm Dennis Sasseto. The Institute of Economic Affairs has called on Parliament to ensure equal spending proportionality is maintained for both the national and county governments. Speaking during a forum held on intergovernmental fiscal relations in Kenya, economist at IEA Kenya, Noah Wamalwa, noted that the national government has been placing a higher priority on its programs than on supporting counties. 3 months after the government imposed a nationwide ban on sale of scrap metal, traders in Nyeri County are complaining of tough economic times owing to the moratorium. They also claimed that the government has been dragging its feet in lifting the ban, despite the fact that majority of them have paid the requisite new registration fee of 250,000 as ordered by the Scrap Metal Council. MasterCard is expanding the reforestation work of the Priceless Planet Coalition to include 15 new restoration projects for a total of 18 globally. These projects will help accelerate progress towards the coalition's goal of restoring 100 million trees. Consumer desire to support initiatives that drive positive change for the environment is growing around the world, according to the MasterCard Economics Institute. Consumer donations to environmentally focused charities grew 48.4% globally in 2022 when compared to pre-pandemic 2019 levels, overall outpacing donation growth to other organizations. Novo Nordisk, a leading pharmaceutical in Maidawa, the first licensed e-pharmacy in Kenya, has launched a partnership that aims to accelerate access to affordable insulin. This partnership is a key part of the iCare TM initiative from Novo Nordisk, with the aim of defeating diabetes in Africa in alignment with both the global vision of Novo Nordisk and Maidawa's objective of increasing access to safe and affordable medication. For Spice Business, I'm Dennis Sasseto.
Business news, keeping you up to date on all your money matters.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
All right, 18 minutes to 10. Kenya's biggest conversation. It continues. Eric Latiff, Okoh, and CT Muga. We're saying we're still in March because the president has not done what? Launched or commissioned, not commission, what's the other word? CT, for launching.
For launching?
Mm.
Inaugurated,
yes, because the president has not inaugurated the expressway. That segment between Machakos to the Kitengela turnoff, first of all, will not be ready this year. The segment between ABC Place and Ironi, forget about it. So, the thingy, 27 kilometers of expressway between Molalongo and ABC Place. That one we can see it's been fenced off.
Yes,
the road
the flowers
is there,
even.
the flowers, blah, 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 blah. Now the problem though.
Government.
Government.
Here is a taxpayer, what we saw yesterday, Eric. Here is a taxpayer basic request on Mombasa Road. We had an even 3 lane on each side of the road highway. Kindly give us back. We paid taxes for it. On each side of the highway, we had walkways, properly done. Rudisheni. We had street lights. It now seems that only the expressway has the right to have street lights. Kindly return our street lights. The social impact of your lack of courtesy and planning is astonishing. Kindly know that Kenyans live on both sides of the road and work on the opposite, and that we need footbridges in at least 9 points from Airtel to
Malalanga.
As the DP always says, Wacheni Madharao, not everyone drives. So, your silence and complicity in this is astonishing. As for our MPs, the quicker we dump them, the better, the whole lot of them. This is from a concerned Mombasa Road citizen. We had lights before, you came and removed them, you did not put them back. We had walkways, you came, you removed them, you did not put them back. We had a way to cross the road because we live on this side.
Even
we
if
work
there was
on
no
the other
footbridge, we could dance,
cross. We're on the other side.
Now you've
wire removed mesh. Everything and you've put wire mesh as though we are chickens in a poultry we cannot pass. give us back. Now, even in the night, when we are finding our way in this maze, we cannot see where we are going because we had lights. You removed them. You did not put them back.
Something more nefarious has happened. Where we had pathways, we have gullies.
And River Mombasa.
Yes, and there's all this space that is not only uneven, but it has holes, literal, everywhere. So even walking is hazardous. Walking, you can't see, and yet that's the only space you have to walk.
Yes.
Because walking on the highway, we know what will happen. And in the absence of street lights, we also know what will happen.
As we go into the weekend, where many people will be using this road, let's use the Standard Group as an example. As you come out of the gate, if peradventure you're using public transport
and you want to go to town,
the only way you can do this is by walking to General Motors and then crossing over and then finding a vehicle that will now go the other way.
Let's be precise. Walking over in that makeshift roundabout thingamajig, okay?
You have to climb the footbridge.
Footbridge there. Yes, there's a footbridge which might take you further than where you want to go, but nonetheless, there's a footbridge. Then you might get a vehicle.
That is okay if you're at the Standard Group. Now,
you're at Airtel.
You are at Airtel, and you are trying to go to Auto Express, which is on the other side of the road.
Literally just across the road.
It's just across the road. Omo, you will walk to General Motors.
Or you walk to the...
Or you go backwards.
To the bypass.
And then you cross over Ole Sereni. Or you will fly.
And walk along the bypass as though you're a vehicle.
Yes.
That is what it looks like now. The unfortunate thing is that we do not see any plans for these things to be sorted out. Have you seen that there's a plan somewhere that there will be a walkway, a bus stop, something that people will then be able to use and then cross over?
I've seen.
You've seen it where?
Yeah, stadium. You haven't seen it?
The government is asking you to be healthy.
Here's the thing. I'm sure as they were discussing the contract for the construction of the expressway with China Road, bridge, railways, blah, 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 airports and dams and pipelines, they must have also talked about, so during construction of the expressway, you are going to affect the existing infrastructure. At the end of it, this is, as you construct, this is what you shall do to the existing road users. As you finish, this is what you shall do to the existing road users. So we have seen, of course, what they've done with the footbridges. We have also seen that because of the construction, they had to now dig up the trenches, expand the drainage, blah, 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 all those things. The question is always, as you're doing all this work, do you actually have the road user in mind? Because there's a current road user as you're going on with your project. There's a current road user, and that road user is not only a motorist. There are very many pedestrians.
The majority of them are not motorists.
So what is the pedestrian supposed to do? For example, just like you're saying, this section now between Standard Group going to General Motors there, that you will go and then climb over the footbridge and go to the other side and find yourself now heading towards town. They have dug trenches. In fact, they've blocked a section of the road. Are you seeing how pedestrians are really, really suffering as you're trying to navigate? It's muddy. It has just been dug up. You are going to work. It is crazy. And there is absolute no thought. You can clearly see there is no thought that's been put onto the existing road users. At the bus stops, nothing about, making the bus stop usable today for the road user today. All we are focusing on is building the expressway. So yes, they're done with the structure of the expressway from Lolongo to Westlands with all the toll stations in place. They have put in the flowers. They have painted the road, put in the lanes, put in the signage up there. But like that user is saying, you found us with a working road. You found us with a working system. We know how to cross the road. Give us the way to cross the road.
Give us a way to cross the road. How are people going to do it? People who ordinarily would get off public transport, for example, and then they will be able to walk a few short meters to their place of employment. Now, what are you asking them to do? You have to either alight from the vehicle way ahead or before your or your stop to be able to walk to where you're going and then walk back later. What about the lighting at night? What about you don't even know where the pathway or the walkway is? You know, it would be nice if it was said this is going to happen, but from all indications, it's not even in the plan.
You see, the point of discussion here is that this expressway is supposed to make our lives better
and easier.
Yes. Development making your life better. But unfortunately, the discussion around it, much as we understand and see the better, there's a balance here. The inconvenience that it has brought about, is it worth it? Is that the price we must pay for this development? Yes, for this so-called better. And for how long must we pay the price? And at what point will we harness the full benefits of this better that we keep being told about?
An accident happened on Mombasa Road yesterday. Tell us about it.
There were 3 accidents that happened in the span of 52 minutes on Mombasa Road yesterday. And we're looking at the part of the road that is smooth just before you get to that General Motors incline, right? And then all of a sudden, you find yourself somewhere else. One vehicle entered another. Another vehicle entered said expressway cage. Another vehicle then was hit by a truck. And that is because you're coming off the smooth part and then you get onto this uneven part of the road and then you find yourself having to control. Unfortunately, if you're coming at a high speed, which you are allowed to do on a highway, that you get a bit, what's the word I'm looking for? You get a bit, of course, you lose control, right?
You get a bit bamboozled.
Indeed. You lose control, unfortunately causing an accident. In 52 minutes, 3 of these happened in the same area just yesterday morning. So the thing is, what is going to be done? Will it be smoothened out or people are just going to continue finding their way in this maze of madness? What is going to happen about that particular area? Remember, Gong Road, same thing. About a month ago, same thing with an unsmoothened road. People lost their lives early Sunday morning.
Without any marking or indication as to where it begins or
no
ends.
indication where the road starts, where you have an acceleration lane. Nobody knew what was supposed to be happening where. People died. Are we waiting for the same thing?
People who did not need to die, died.
Are we waiting for the same thing again to happen? And these are things that can be sorted out while you're finishing this construction. It's not a new project.
But there's something that I found peculiar though. Huh? There are wonderfully bright red signages telling you Southern Bypass, El Selassie Road and all that. And yet, the signage that's supposed to indicate where you're supposed to turn off, they're microscopic. You actually literally need to be something like 2 meters next to it for you to actually see. Now,
inside the expressway.
Yes. These green signages you're supposed to see them at least some 100 meters ahead. I mean, it needs to be bold. This one, you're caught between trying to understand whether you should turn left or right, or they should drive, and it's maddening. And then, even what is written on it, the truth is, you read it, as I say correctly, when it's something like 2 or 3 meters from it. That's when. I read it best when there's some sort of jam, and the vehicle I am in, which is an Uber, is moving slowly, then I can read it. And I think, now, if I was driving, would I actually be able to see this?
Would you see it?
And the answer is no. What is it about what was planned for this road? Because the blueprints were wonderful, I'm certain. By the time you're getting funding for these things, everything is pick and span, and everything that requires passing that master has been passed. Now, we have implementation. You know, ask this question. When you say the road network or this bypass, this express will be complete, what do you mean? When you say it'll be, what will completion look like?
What is completion?
When you purposed it and you planned it and you initiated it, what was it supposed to look like? Because if this is what we're supposed to look at, we might as well not have had it.
Well, I guess the reason why the president hasn't done that thing that he is supposed to do is because of some of these issues. Now, I'm not feeling like CRBCCC is actually working with zeal to refurbish the road that it destroyed so that it put up its road. And maybe it's about time that we say, okay, so if that thing in the middle of the road, if that thing of yours is complete, let us get into it so you can come and repair our
let's
road.
all be using it.
For free.
Then you fix this one.
Until you fix our road.
Yes,
For free. We get onto the expressway for free until you fix
and jam it completely.
until you fix our road. And
there needs to be an insistence on that. Let me take you to another area of the road really quickly. Up there at Mlolongo, right? Now that one, you're playing Russian roulette with vehicles as a pedestrian, right? If you are on this side, crossing over so that you can now go inbound to the city.
If you're on which side?
If you're on the other side of the road.
if
you're heading towards Mombasa.
Explain to Eric, when
if
you're on this side
Mombasa,
and you want to head to the other side.
If you're heading towards Mombasa and you want to go to Nairobi and you're trying to cross the road, there's actually no demarcation for you to cross because you're at the junction where the expressway begins. So right now, no demarcation. And trust me, you're about a kilometer away from the nearest footbridge. So unless you walk to the footbridge and then cross over, there's really nothing for you to cross. And then now you have to now start figuring out, okay, so do I descend and then use the free road and walk until I get where I'm going? Mind you, there is no public service vehicle stop
where the
at that point
is
at all.
It's not a stage. You see, this footbridge was put up just a couple of years ago. Okay, and then soon after the footbridge is completed, the expressway project begins. So where the footbridge was initially, it was taking you to the bus stop. There was a stage. That's where matatus would stop.
Yes.
Now where the footbridge at Mlolongo is taking you, is you land somewhere here, you find trucks that are going onto the weighbridge, so there's no space for matatus to stop. And on the other side, same. So there's no bus stop where the footbridge is. So
meanwhile, all the excavation that was done on the old road is still sitting
it's exactly
on
where it was.
The road.
Yes.
Now, the danger of this thing is that it makes folks look as though they're ungrateful for this new swanky developmental infrastructure that has taken place, which is not the case. The devil oftentimes is in the details. And that's the thing that will come to bite you in the behind if you don't take care of it. These things that people are talking about, that they cannot cross the road, that they cannot see at night, that there are no pathways, even for people who ride bicycles, that kind of thing, nothing is happening for them. That is where this thing will be a big lob on your neck because at least people had an existence that they could kind of, meander through. You've left them with a bigger mess than there was before. And we're saying
in the name
it
of
would
progress.
have taken nothing, really. It's incomparable to this expressway that was built. It would have taken nothing to return things to the way you found them. And my hope truly is that it is in their plan.
That's what they're doing.
Yes,
but
I hope it is in their plan.
They should do it very, very fast. It's raining now, so you can imagine the kind of inconvenience that people are going to suffer in this 1-2 months. Crazy. In the meantime, those people need a solution today.
And the people who are supposed to provide the solution have the means to do so.
Of course.
Yes. So the eternal question, why aren't they providing the solution?
Anyway, we'll talk about them until
we need to.
They get it in their heads. City, tell us the proverb, then Ndu will tell us about Colgate.
Right. The person who has never experienced evil does not know the worth of what is good. This road was good before they started putting up all these things. Now we're experiencing evil.
Hey, God.
We had a good thing going.
We did have
however
a good
bad
thing
it
going.
was.
It was a good thing.
Was good.
Just left us with our problems.
Yeah.
Why did you take us to Canaan?
Imagine.
Let me give it to you in numbers. 120,000, 30. I mean, those are the numbers of people that will benefit from water wells in the country over the next few months, at least by the end of the year. Very difficult for people to get access to clean water. Colgate making that just a little bit easier. And you can participate as well for a packet of toothpaste that you buy, Colgate specifically, exclusively at Naivas. 10 shillings from that goes towards making sure that 30 more water wells can be sunk across the country, making life just that much easier for communities, children across the country.
Thank you very much for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation today, and indeed the entire week. We are always grateful when you tune in, when you comment, when you post all the comments on social media, when you call in. Asanteni sana. We wish you a lovely weekend. We have got Double O Direct tomorrow at what time?
10 to
2. And then we've got Jimmy Gathu live at what time?
2 to 7.
Yes. More stuff over the weekend. Enjoy yourselves. We'll be back on Monday. It's 10 o'clock.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. Dennis Aseto. The Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission is seeking to hire 418